Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
I'd like to call the Nash County Board of Commissioners meeting for December of 2021 to order at this time. It is customary for us to begin our meetings with a prayer by a sitting commissioner. And during this time, you're welcome to stand and join us in the prayer. You're welcome to use this time for your own prayer, or you're welcome to use it for a moment of silence, whichever is your desire. And after the prayer, we will have a pledge of allegiance of the flag by Commissioner Wayne Outlaw. And at this time, I'd like to call on Commissioner Fred Belfield for the invocation. Mr. Belfield?
Let's all stand. Let's pray. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on us. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on us. Break us, mold us, and fill us. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on us. Our Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. It started out to be a beautiful day. We believe it will be a beautiful day all for next 24 hours. Father, as we gather here, this is the season in which your son Jesus was born, and this is the season that we celebrate his birth. We pray, Father, that all of us will realize that this should be our number one priority during this season. Yes, the wise men brought gifts to Jesus when he was born. Yes, and we give gifts to our friends and others in need. We pray, Father, as we go through this meeting, that we will keep you in mind, that you are God, you are our leader, and we ask for knowledge. We ask first for wisdom, and with wisdom comes knowledge. As we go through our agenda, we ask for this wisdom, and we know we will make the right decisions that will be in the best interest of the citizens of Nash County. Father, these blessings we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Belfield, I greatly appreciate your very timely prayer this morning, sir. It almost makes me now have us sing a hymn like 134 in the old Baptist hymn book that I grew up in, which was Just As I Am, but it was a very lovely prayer, and I appreciate it, sir.
You know, sometimes I feel like singing before I pray.
Well, we will let you do that.
Well, I don't know. It would satisfy me, but I'm not sure about the board. So I won't take up that kind of time
Okay.
before I pray.
But on behalf of the board, I do think it was very appropriate at this time of the year. We're now on item number 4 on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes for the last month. During that month of November, we had a meeting on November the 1st, a meeting on November the 15th, and we had a joint meeting with our school board on November the 18th. You have those minutes. I would be glad to entertain a motion for any changes, any additions, or approval of all three as you see fit.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Combs to approve.
I second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Minutes stand approved, Madam Clerk, and like always, we thank you for the great job you do. Item number 5 is in December of each year, the board elects new leadership for the next board for the next year. And at this time, I would like to appoint a temporary chairman of the board, and we normally appoint the attorney. And so at this time, Mr. Vince Durham, I'll turn item number 5 over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the chairman just said, North Carolina law requires that the board elect a chairman and vice chairman every December at its regularly scheduled meeting. So today, I will entertain motions for a nomination of the chairman of the Nash County Board of Commissioners.
I nominate Commissioner Robbie Davis to continue to be our chairman for 2022.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Belfield. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to elect Robbie Davis as chairman of the Nash County Board of Commissioners. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Appears to be unanimous. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Durham, and equally important, I thank the board for choosing to allow me to lead you for another year. It's not a position that I take lightly at all. My major job as chair is to see that the board works together, and I certainly can't do that by myself. It takes all 7 of us to do that, and I'm glad to say that I think we do a great job of that, based on some things I see in other places. But the only thing I would ask of the board in the next year, if you have anything at all that you wish to inform me on, or things that I'm not doing correctly, I would like to hear from you. All of you know I don't sleep much. I don't care when you call me, day or night, early in the morning. But I can do a much better job if I know what each individual commissioner has on the mind, and I'd certainly like to go into it with that mindset. Y'all do a good job of that, but I certainly want to hear anything at all that comes up that I could do to lead the board in the direction what is best for Nash County. And again, I thank you for electing me chair again. At this time, we would elect a new vice chair, and I would open the floor at this time for nominations for a vice chair of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Wayne Outlaw for vice chair.
I have a nomination by Commissioner Combs for Mr. Outlaw to continue as vice chair. Is there a second to that motion?
I second that motion.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed by a like sign. Congratulations, Mr. Outlaw. You are elected to serve as the next year.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's support.
We also each year appoint, or is it each year or each 2 years, Mr. Durham? Each year?
I think it's each year.
Each year. We appoint the county attorney as well as the clerk to the board.
Clerk is correcting me. It's every 2 years. I apologize.
Okay, every 2 years, okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's why we're getting ready to appoint her again. But at this time, I'd entertain a motion to appoint the county attorney.
So moved.
And that's for Vince
Second.
Durham.
Mr. Durham.
Mr. Durham, and seconded by Mr. Belfield. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Mr. Durham, you are charged with staying with us another year, sir. And
Thank you, sir.
appreciate your service and long service to the county. I don't want everybody to speak at one time, but it's okay if you do. I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint the clerk for the board for the next year.
I move that Janice Evans will be our clerk of the board for 2022.
Okay. And I'm actually stating that's wrong. It's for the next 2 years, as we just learned.
Well, okay, whatever the requirements.
Can we make it for the?
Next 2 years.
Next 2. Can we make it for 6 years, Mr. Durham?
Pardon me?
Can we make it for 6 years?
I don't think we can.
If we could, we'd try that, Ms. Evans. But I have a motion and did I get a second on that? Second. Well, Commissioner Leggett, all in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, which I know it will not be? Motion carries, ma'am. And on behalf of the board, we certainly appreciate everything you do for us. At this time, we are on item number 9, which is public comment. This is a time where if you are in the audience and have anything at all you wish to bring before the board that is not on the agenda, we'd be glad to hear from you. We did have a sign-up period before the meeting, and no one signed up, but our board is very friendly to hearing from the citizens of Nash County, and if you didn't realize you needed to sign up, and you're here to speak on an item not on the agenda, if it's a public hearing or something that's on the agenda, we would ask that you wait till it comes up. But is anyone wishes to speak to the board at this time about any item? Seeing no one coming forward, we will move to item number 10. I will say at this time, the county is still doing what we can to prevent COVID from getting in our workforce, getting in our citizens, and also for the board. So between each speakers, we do have Megan here that will continue to clean the podium. So when we start having speakers, if you would just pause a moment and let her do her due diligence, it greatly be appreciated. Number 10 is the Employee United Way, and I call on Anson Kirkland at this time to make this presentation. And as you come up, I've got one more item I need to take care of. I had an item that was asked to be added to the agenda that I think you have laying at your desk. I believe I sent you an email sometime yesterday about it, but I would like to entertain a motion to add that sheriff item as 10A to the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, is there a second? It's second by Commissioner Combs and Commissioner Bellfield. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? We will add item 10A to the agenda. Anson, please go ahead, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. As you know, each year we have a United Way campaign that supports our local United Way. This year, our campaign ran from September 19th through the 29th, our official campaign did. We've had some other events throughout the year. We had a phenomenal campaign this year, and I'll give you just a few of the highlights of the campaign before I read the list of donors that we want to mention today. Last year, our total giving was $34,650.77. And this year, with the donations we received and the various events that we had throughout the year, our total giving was $38,162.72. That's an increase of over 10%. So we're really proud of that this year. We had various events throughout the year, such as a Third Friday Jeans Day. We've had candygrams, a barbecue, baked goods competition, homemade ice cream, and then later in October, we had a pumpkin decorating contest as well as a 50-50 raffle, which helped support the campaign as well. We have 3 different giving levels of giving that we want to recognize today, and that's the care share, which is equal to 1 hour of pay per month for the employees, a starter care share, which is equal to half an hour pay per month, and also a landmark, which is $500 or more. And because of social distancing, and I think we had probably 85 or 86 people that we want to recognize, we didn't have them come to the meeting today because we couldn't obviously get 85 people in here. So we're just going to read the names if that's okay with the board.
Whatever you deem appropriate, sir.
Okay, all right, well, I'll just proceed and read the names. And I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible. Okay. For the care share level, we have Sarah Alderman, Linda Antonez, Megan Bandy, Jonathan Batchelor, Heather Bone, Jeffrey Bone, Sherman Booth, Ann Brantley, Ashton Burgess, Kayla Calamaco, Jacqueline Chartier, Mary Clinton, Beverly Cooper, Lynette Cooper, Tony Cooper, Morgan Dowdy, Janice Evans, Ricky Evans, Scott Farmer, Bryant Fisher, Kara Garrod, and I'm probably not correct on some of these names, but I'll try. Andrea Giddens, Thomas Gillespie, Nicole Glover, Barbara Green, Vicki Jones, Frida Joyner, Brittany Long, Kevin Marks, Melissa McDaniels, Kimberly Nicholson, Kathy Ordez, Michael Phillips, Shannon Phillips, Amy Pittman, Christopher Pittman, Samuel Pridgeon, Kenetta Rogers, Kimberly Shields, Karen Smith, Erica Stillman, Michael Strickland, Scott Strufy, William Trimmer, Don Ulrich, Michael Vance, Timothy Vaughn, Samuel Weeks, and Keith Wood. And for the starter care share, we have Elizabeth Barfield, Joanne Basinger, Vivian Burke, Angel Carpenter, Tony Coleman, Nadine Daniels, Sandra Davis, Shamika Dawes, Mary Edwards, Brent Fisher, Tiffany Jones, Anderson Kirkland, Edward Long, Angela Mangum, Bess Massengale, Emily Moore, Anthony Morera, Susan Phillips, Amy Tanner, Adam Tyson, Sandy Vick, Nadine Whitaker, Katrina Whitehurst, Pamela Williams, and Tara Williams. For the care share and landmark level combined, we have Jonathan Boone, Andy Hagee, Amy Hamlet, Tammy Jones, Brandon Medina, Shay Neal, Scott Rogers, Stacy Schatzer, Doris Sumner, and Donna Wood. And for the landmark giving, we have 3 commissioners. We have Fred Belfield, Robbie Davis, and, Vince Durham, the attorney, not a commissioner, but the attorney. And that completes our list of donors that we're recognizing. And I don't have a sample to show you today, but for the care share givers, they will receive a United Way T-shirt, which we don't have a sample of just yet, but they'll be receiving that in the next few days. And the starter care share will receive a Nash County lunch cooler, lunch bag, which I've seen, which is very attractive. So there'll be the prizes that'll be awarded at a later date for these. The certificates will also be awarded sometime after the meeting. We have them in our office, and we're just going to distribute those to the various departments. Any questions?
Any questions from board members? If we could, I'd like to give all our employees that participated a hand at this time.
Absolutely.
And I did watch throughout the year on your social media page what all the employees did and the events they had. Somebody induced a lot of fun into it, and I'm sure that helped add the 10% to what we have been doing. Plus had a barrel full of fun doing it too as well, I think, particularly the pumpkin decorations.
Yes.
Which I think we all enjoyed those. But thank you for what you did, and thank Mr. Boone, if he is here, for his leadership in that, and look forward to next year. There are plenty of needs out there, as we all know. But thank you and employees of Nash County.
Absolutely. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for acquisition of property and approval of resolution. It's item number 11.
Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
10A.
Thank you. I'm sitting here looking at it like, what does that mean? But yes, excuse me, Andy, I'll get right back with you. 10A is an item that the Sheriff's Department asked for us to add to the agenda this morning, and it is a retiring member of the Sheriff's Department, and as we have done many times in the past, we'd like to present the service revolver to this individual, and I would call on Major Eddie Moore at this time to make the presentation. Sorry about that, Major.
No, sir, no problem.
Sure.
First, I'd just like to say thank you guys for allowing us to work this in at the last minute. As Mr. Davis said, what we're asking for, just like we have in the past, excuse me, this morning, for Greg Finch here, he's been with us for 22 years, and if you will, just bear with me a second, I got a short little bio I'm going to read about him. Sergeant Albert Gregory Finch's last day with the Nash County Sheriff's Office was on December 3rd, 2021, after nearly 22 years of service to the Sheriff's Office. Albert Gregory Finch started his prestigious law enforcement career in March of 2000. He was hired, and his first assignment was serving as a detention officer. After 6 months of serving as a detention officer, Albert Gregory Finch was enrolled in Nash Community College's second basic law enforcement training academy. Upon successful completion of basic law enforcement training, Albert Gregory Finch was assigned as a patrol deputy. Shortly thereafter, Finch was promoted to deputy corporal, and later throughout his career was promoted to patrol sergeant and served in that capacity until an agency rank restructuring resulted in Finch being promoted to patrol lieutenant. Albert Gregory Finch also served as the agency's quartermaster, a criminal investigative sergeant, and a narcotics investigator for a brief time until he was transferred over to the civil division. Albert Gregory Finch is a proud graduate of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department's Command College and of Wilson Community College's Law Enforcement Management Institute. Albert Gregory Finch has also served as a certified computer voice stress analyzer, CVSA. Sergeant Finch has achieved the North Carolina Sheriff's Education and Training Standards Commission Intermediate and Advanced Law Enforcement Certificate, as well as the North Carolina Sheriff's Education and Training Standards Commission's Intermediate and Advanced Service Awards. The Nash County Sheriff's Office is requesting approval of the donation of Sergeant Finch's service weapon to him in honor of his nearly 22 years of dedicated and honorable service to law enforcement in Nash County.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Finch, would you like to say anything, sir?
Just like to thank the board, thank the citizens of the county for allowing me to serve. It's been an honor, pleasure. I've had a great time, and I appreciate each and every one of you.
I generally know when somebody's coming up for retirement. Did this come up pretty quick, it seemed like to me, or maybe you knew it, nobody else didn't know it?
It didn't come up quick. It was something it had been playing with me for several months, and I had to make a decision for myself.
Understand.
And so my family has relocated, and it's just time for me to be with my family. That's all.
If they relocated, you need to be with your family. I couldn't agree with you more.
I've spent the last 6 months here trying to figure out which was the best option
Okay,
for me, and I just think this is the best for me and my family.
okay. Are you staying in North Carolina?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Well, on behalf of the board, we greatly appreciate your service to Nash County and their citizens, and 22 years indeed is a long time to do what you gentlemen do. It's not getting any easier, as we realize, and hopefully a better day will come as it relates to law enforcement, but we greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure the board is glad to do this, but I would at this time entertain a motion to approve this request. Moved by Commissioner Leggett,
Second.
second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion passes, sir. And we, again, greatly appreciate your service, and anything we can do for you moving forward, please let us know.
Yes, sir. Thank you so very
Thanks
much.
for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll go back to item number 11. And I think I stated item 11 was a piece of property that the county is anticipating purchasing. And Mr. Durham, I need some instructions. I did receive an email concerning this item from an individual that couldn't be here this morning, that would have liked to have spoke. Apparently, do I enter that into the record? What is the proper way for me to handle that?
I think that would be fine at the time of the public hearing. Just go ahead and
Okay,
read it into the record.
okay, thank you. Mr. Hagan?
Okay. See if this works. There we go. We're talking about 94.7 acres, total acres. You can see before you, it's both sides of the second entrance to the Middlesex Corporate Center from 268 alternate. This will complete this end of the park of having property, control of the property on both sides. Just a kind of a footnote, this property right here is already committed to a potential business we're talking to, which will leave us around 38 acres on this side to market to new businesses, which some have already been presented the availability of this property as well. But this one right here, for a total around 57 acres, has been committed. See, there's This will give you a little better idea of just the parcel. Triangle piece, again, both sides of the corporate parkway. And on the left side there where the star is, it is around 58 acres that's committed to a new business, looking at the county, leaving the right side of around 38 acres for us to market. Anybody got any questions on the location of the property?
Questions from board members? Don't think so, sir.
Okay. Should I continue with the resolution?
I think we should do the resolution before the public hearing, yes. If you want to go ahead with the resolution, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Whereas the Local Development Act of 1925 authorizes counties to make appropriations and to convey and acquire interests in real property for the purposes of aiding and encouraging the location of manufacturing enterprises and to assist in locating industrial and commercial plants in the county, which will, in the discretion of the governing body of the county, increase the population, taxable property, agricultural industries, and business prospects of the county. And whereas counties may acquire, construct, and convey property for the purpose of encouraging economic development as authorized by NCGS 158-7.1A and B2. And whereas the county has entered into a contract to purchase property from Harris Sales Corp. located on US 264 alternate in Middlesex at the entrance of the Middlesex Corporate Center. Whereas Nash County desires to authorize the purchase of the said property for purposes of encouraging economic development in accordance with the terms of North Carolina General Statute 158-7.1. And now therefore, let it be resolved that the Nash County Commissioners hereby approve the purchase of the following described property. Survey in PA and recorded it in map book 43, page 198, Nash County Registry. The Nash County Board of Commissioners, after hearing the presentation of Nash County Economic Development Director Andy Hagee, do hereby agree as follows. Nash County is hereby authorized to purchase the above described real property at or near the Middlesex Corporate Center in accordance with the terms of the purchase contract for the sum of $947,870 or $10,000 per gross acre, payable to the company and subject to the declarations of covenants, conditions, restrictions, and easements for the Middlesex Corporate Center, recorded in book 2857, page 129, Nash County Registry. The Nash County Commissioners hereby authorize its chairman and clerk to execute any purchase documents necessary to acquire the property from the company in accordance with the terms of the purchase contract, adopted this 6th day of December 2021.
All right, thank you, Andy. I think we should have the public hearing prior to adopting the resolution.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the board about this purchase? I will say, back at the time we originally bought land for the Middlesex Industrial Park, we would have liked to have this piece of land. The owner at that time wasn't as interested in selling it as they have gotten fairly recently, and so the price came down quite a bit from what it was said at one time, and it is a completion really of what we would have liked to have in the beginning, because it takes the road all the way through property that Nash County will own if the board chooses to do this. But any other questions about this? All right, thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
At this time, I'd call for a motion to go into public hearing on this matter.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Cone, second by Commissioner Belfield. Is there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing as it relates to Nash County considering to purchase this land. It will be for industrial recruitment and to allow us to have land available in our wheelhouse or our toolbox to bring industries here. And as Mr. Hagee mentioned, there is an industry that is interested in the larger tract on this land already. And so even with that said, it is a tract that the county would be wise to invest in, I think, simply because we will be putting a road through there. And it would be nice to have the land in our control once we put the road through there, and water and sewer is currently available to that property. So if there's anyone here this morning that wishes to speak for or against this item, we'd like for you to come forward at this time, and we'd be glad to hear from you. Seeing no one, as I spoke earlier, we did have one individual that sent an email sometime yesterday concerning this, and it was addressed to Mr. Lamb, so I have asked Mr. Lamb to read the email into the record of the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have received an email from Becky May Strickland, and this is what she has asked that I read. My name is Becky May Strickland. I reside at 9911 North Chestnut Street within the town of Middlesex. I moved here 8+ years ago, but well after Nash County purchased hundreds of acres and spent millions of Nash County taxpayers' dollars to establish Middlesex Corporate Park and have it annexed into the Middlesex city limits. And that's all you have done on it, spend public money. After 10 years, it has not shown no return and will not for years to come, and probably not in my lifetime. But it has cost the town of Middlesex taxpayers hundreds of thousands, perhaps several million, I don't know, in grant funds which the town readily gave to you, the county, to supply water and sewer extensions to the park. Is that the county's and the Middlesex Mayor Lewis plan for the new purchase? $947,000 for 94 acres outside the boundaries of the already established corporate park, one shell building and roads to be quickly annexed by the town of Middlesex with little legal notification in a Wilson County newspaper, and to be given the recent $1.5 million grant we were awarded by the state for sewer to Nash County's new property rather than spend it on existing corroded pipes, plumbing, and pump stations here in town. My kitchen faucet, only 9 years old, rusted out completely this year after the bad water and had to be replaced. I have never had that happen before, and I have lived in several small NC towns with their own municipal water systems. I don't drink those towns' water. I don't cook with it. Most days it smells like chloride. So the town of Middlesex needs to take care of its own residents' water and sewer urgent needs before it annexes another 94 acres of tax-exempt property belonging to Nash County and extends water and sewer to you. There is absolutely no reason for this purchase at this time by the county. You commissioners have an obligation to be good stewards of taxpayer money. You are not doing that with this purchase because you have secured only one commercial tenant for the entire Middlesex Corporate Park, which you have owned already for over 10 years. There is plenty of land in that white elephant for whatever it is that you commissioners and the mayor of Middlesex have already agreed upon, unbeknownst as usual to the paying public. I beg you to stop throwing good Nash County public money after bad here in Middlesex. Concentrate your existing funds and efforts on the current MCP give it a chance to thrive. Should you proceed with this purchase, please leave it in the county and do not request annexation into the town of Middlesex, thereby making it an additional burden on the town of Middlesex taxpayers and existing water and sewer customers. The mayor has said Middlesex cannot purchase any more water from Raleigh. So what do we do for immediate water and sewer needs? Thank you for your time and consideration. Becky May Strickland. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Okay, that reading will be entered into the public hearing. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on the public hearing? Seeing no one, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett, second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Public hearing is now
Mr. Chairman.
closed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Belfield.
listening to county manager read that email, it came to my mind that industrial development and jobs opportunities, we probably have a lot of citizens that don't understand what it takes to attract industry.
Yes, sir.
And one thing that our citizens need to understand is that we're in competition with other counties in the state. We're in competition with other states. And sometime industry taking a look at several different places, sites.
Yes, sir.
And we may be selected and we may not, but it's an ongoing process that I think the public need to understand. They want people to work. I think everybody wants people to work and don't want them on social programs. So we need jobs for them. We need to train them. That costs money too. So the whole process, the public needs to understand, and I think it's our responsibility as well as the state's responsibility to help the citizens understand why we do the things that we do.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield. I agree with you 100% on your words there. Any other comment from commissioners or questions on this item? As we all know, the industrial recruitment is a very competitive item. When I first became a commissioner, all you probably had to do was just be willing to talk to people, and you could convince a lot of them to come to our area. It has, over the years, become more and more difficult to get industries because it's such a competitive market. At one period of my time as a commissioner, all you had to do was have land identified that could be used as a site. And then it developed into you had to have utilities close by, and you had to have a plan to put them there. And the world we actually operate in today, we're to the point to stay competitive, to bring jobs here, and Nash County is doing a great job with this new economic development office that we have, department that we have created fairly recent, but now the world, what happens is you've got to pretty much own the land, you've got to have the utilities there, you've got to have the pad or the site pad ready almost, and in many cases, you've got to have a shell building sitting there. So it is an ongoing process. The board does need to commit to funding to stay in the game early. And in this particular case, I am pleased that Mr. Hague has indicated that we have a fairly large amount of this land obligated for the industry that does wish to come here. So with that said, no one else wishes to speak. I'd entertain a motion to approve or deny the resolution.
Make a motion, we approve the resolution.
Have a motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Have several seconds by Commissioner Wilkins, Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is a public hearing on UDO text amendment request A211101 for lot widths on higher traffic roads. I'll call on our planning director, Adam Tyson, at this time to make this presentation.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
This is the first of 5 planning-related items on your agenda this morning. This is a text amendment to our Unified Development Ordinance. If you'll recall, at last month's meeting, I let the board know that during the review of the Green Pond Loop Road subdivision, the applicant brought to the planning staff's attention an issue with our current ordinance, and the intention of this text amendment is to address that issue. The ordinance currently requires additional lot width for residential lots that are proposed with direct access to roads that meet 2 criteria. The first criteria is that they are identified by the North Carolina Department of Transportation functional classification system as being either a major arterial, a minor arterial, a major collector, or a minor collector road. And number 2, that road has a projected post-development average daily traffic of over 1,000 vehicles per day. The purpose of this requirement, as the board well knows, is to limit the number of driveways that are established closely together on heavily traveled roads in order to ultimately reduce opportunities for vehicle accidents and to improve traffic safety. While the Technical Review Committee was reviewing the proposed Green Pond Loop Road subdivision, the applicant for that project pointed out that the current language of our ordinance excludes roads classified by the Department of Transportation as local roads from these additional lot width requirements, regardless of whether their traffic counts exceed 1,000 or not. So if you go back up on the front page of the report there, number 1, the four categories, major arterial, minor arterial, major collector, and minor collector, whether on purpose or not, the ordinance does not list the lowest category of NCDOT road, local roads. Therefore, this amendment is proposed in order to remove from the ordinance the reference to the DOT functional classification system so that that additional lot width can be applied to any road that has a projected post-development traffic count of over 1,000 vehicles per day. The TRC has proposed this amendment for 2 reasons. Number 1, it is consistent with the current DOT Division 4 driveway permit guidelines, which require a minimum separation of 200 feet between residential driveways on roads with traffic counts between 1,000 to 3,000 vehicles per day, regardless of that road's DOT functional classification. And because it is consistent with those driveway guidelines, our local NCDOT district engineer, who serves on the Technical Review Committee, is supportive of this text amendment. And the second reason is because it can take several years for the DOT to reevaluate a local road for reclassification as a minor collector road, which under the current ordinance, that would have to happen before we could apply the additional lot width, regardless of what the calculation of traffic is. The DOT does look at these based on changes to local transportation networks and land use patterns, but during times of rapid land development, which of course we're seeing in the southern portion of Nash County, the DOT functional classification system cannot keep pace with local subdivision growth, meaning that roads can acquire enough new lots that they have over 1,000 trips per day long before the DOT cycle comes back around to reclassify that local road into a minor collector road and make it eligible for those additional lot width requirements. The first thing I want to do is just go through the ordinance, both for the board and for the developers that are here, and talk about how the rules work now, and then we'll look at the proposed change. The section of the ordinance states currently, subdivisions shall not be approved that propose individual residential lots with direct vehicular access to roads that are recognized as having significant traffic mobility concerns as identified by the NCDOT functional classification system, including all major arterials, minor arterials, major collectors, and minor collectors. I'll just pause and note again that what's lacking from that list is local roads with a current ADT over 1,000. ADT, average daily traffic, shall be calculated by using the latest NCDOT published data plus 3% for each year in which current information is not available, and then adding 10 trips per lot proposed in the subdivision. So that makes a very strong statement that there will be no individual residential lots proposed on these roads that have a post-development calculated traffic count of over 1,000 vehicles per day. But immediately following that in the ordinance are 4 exceptions. There were previously 5 exceptions, but the board removed one earlier this year that stated that this section was particularly applicable for a subdivision waiver. And that was the piece of the ordinance that caused a lot of proposals for shared driveways. And by removing that waiver from this list of exceptions, the board has not seen any shared driveway proposals since that time. But the removal of that 5th exception still leaves 4. The first exception is that lots can abut these high-traffic roads as long as it's the rear of the lot that abuts them and they are actually served by a driveway onto an interior street that is inside the subdivision. So there's no problem with these lots backing up to a busy road as long as they have driveways on an interior road and not the busy roadside. The second exception is that you can propose lots on these heavily traveled roads as long as the lot width is at least doubled. And so in most of our residential zoning districts, the standard lot width is 100 feet. And so as long as those lots are 200 feet, they can be approved under the ordinance. And again, the purpose of that is to have fewer and wider lots along heavily traveled roads and to space out those driveways, which are opportunities for traffic accidents. The third exception is that if the developer can't quite have double the width of the lot, they can do 1.5 times, which in normal cases is if they can't have 200-foot wide lots, perhaps they can have 150-foot wide lots. And then for every foot difference between 150 and 200, they have to add 1,000 square feet to their minimum lot size. And that's another way of limiting the density of lots that can be developed on that road by making the lots be overall larger and at least half as much again wide as what a standard lot would be. And then finally, there is an exception that if you are creating a lot around an existing dwelling, say perhaps you had a lot that had 2 to 3 homes on it, and you're trying to subdivide those lots in order to sell them or refinance a home. If those dwellings were placed there prior to May 2005, when these regulations were adopted, there is an exemption that says that those older homes may have lots created around them that have just the standard 100-foot lot width. So you have the rule, and then you have the 4 exceptions. The text amendment before you today does not propose any changes to the exceptions. It just proposes a change to the opening paragraph there. And you can see on your screen the proposed changes that are highlighted in yellow. If it's struck through, it is to be removed. And then, of course, if it's highlighted in yellow but not struck through, that's additional language. The major thing that it does is it completely removes the reference to the NCDOT functional classification system, meaning that as soon as the traffic counts trigger over 1,000 vehicles per day, the rules about wider and fewer lots apply. I'll read what the new passage would state if the text amendment was adopted. Letter F, lots on roads with higher daily traffic. Subdivisions shall not be approved that propose individual residential lots with direct vehicular access to roads with a projected post-development average daily traffic, ADT, count of over 1,000. ADT shall be calculated by using the latest available NCDOT data, plus 3% for each year in which current information is not available, and then adding 10 trips per lot proposed in the subdivision. So the changes are proposed to the opening paragraph, and they're only as you see here, and the only material change is the removal of the reference to the DOT classification system. This amendment is neither consistent nor inconsistent with the recommendations of our land development plan because the plan does not specifically address residential lot width requirements. The Technical Review Committee is the applicant, so of course they recommended approval back on November 3rd. The Planning Board considered this request on November 15th. Mr. Cecil Williams, Jr. of the C.T. Williams Corporation addressed the board in opposition to the requested amendment, expressing concerns about how and where traffic is counted on the road by the NCDOT. The Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request and the suggested statement of plan consistency below. So at the end of the staff report, you have a suggested motion to approve the text amendment with a statement of plan consistency, or a motion to deny the text amendment with a statement of plan consistency. I began this report by pointing out that this arose from a discussion around the Green Pond Loop Road subdivision. That was on your agenda last month, and the board, of course, voted to table it for further consideration this month. Because that project was submitted prior to this text amendment, even if the board adopts this text amendment this morning, it does not retroactively apply to that project. Having said that, that does not mandate that the board needs to approve or deny that project. You still have the legislative authority to take either action on that project when it's before you. So even though this text amendment arose out of that project, it does not strictly apply to it. And we can talk about that more when we get to that item. But for now, I'm going to pause right there and take any staff questions that you have on the text amendment.
Any board members have questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Belfield?
You mentioned that DOT would take them 7 years to get to different projects here in the county.
Up to 7 years.
I wonder why it takes so long.
Right.
With DOT having offices in every county.
Right. I didn't mean to say the number 7. I think I meant to say several years.
Oh, several.
I don't recall 7 being a specific number.
My mistake.
Right. But what we're talking about is reevaluating roads within their own classification system to see if they need to step up their classification. And while DOT is constantly looking at that based on things that are happening, the only guarantee they can give you is that all roads, I believe, are done every 10 years in the same cycle as the U.S. Census. And so you could always have some straggler roads that escape attention for 5 years or more. And that's fine. That's not the county's issue. The county's issue, or the planning staff's issue, is that that cycle may not work fast enough to keep up in times of rapid growth like we're seeing in the southern part of the county. And so instead of tying these county regulations to that DOT classification system, this proposes just breaking that link and applying the same rules to every road that has over 1,000 cars per day.
Other concerns or questions?
I just have one
Sure, Mr. Tucker.
question. It states in the revision that it would be 10 trips per lot proposed in the subdivision. So 10 trips would equate to 1 vehicle, correct?
Well, 10 trips would equate to 1 household. So if a household could have multiple vehicles, for every residence that's proposed, there are 10 trips per day projected. And that is a number that comes directly from a DOT manual. that has been in place for probably more than 20 years, but is constantly looked at and updated. And we've had a discussion in recent months with DOT, and they confirmed that that is still an industry standard projection for a new neighborhood.
Well, my understanding was it was 10 trips per vehicle.
It's 10 trips per household.
Okay, so even with 2 or 3 vehicles, it would be 10 trips?
Correct.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Tyson.
Yes, sir.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter.
Go into public hearing.
Moved by Mr. Bellfield, seconded by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing concerning this text amendment proposed before the board this morning. And at this time, we'd be delighted to hear from anyone that has a comment or an opinion for or against this text amendment to come forward at this time. State your name and address for the record. Anyone wish to speak on it? Seeing no movement, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs and Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? The public hearing is now closed. Discussion from the board. Any other questions or concerns or questions of staff on this matter? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve or deny the text amendment and simultaneously adopt a statement of plan consistency as it relates to what the motion is.
I'll make a motion, we approve the text amendment and adopt the plan of consistency.
I have a motion to approve the text amendment and the adoption of the plan consistency. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Item number 12 carries. And we'll move to item number 13, which is a conditional rezoning request CZ 210801 for the Green Pond Loop Road subdivision. And I'll call on Mr. Tyson at this time to make the presentation on the request.
As I previously alluded to, the board held and closed a legislative public hearing on this request at your last regular meeting on November 1. Following that public hearing, you voted to table this item for further consideration. Since that public hearing was properly held and closed, there is no additional public hearing to be held on this matter. Since that time, the applicant has made no changes to the proposal except to add the 50-foot wide access and utility easement that was recommended and requested by both the TRC and the planning board. I will give you a brief, hopefully briefer than usual, reminder of this project. The subject property is outlined in red on the maps on the screen. That's 238 acres of land owned by L&F Farms located on both sides of Green Pond Loop Road in the R40 Single Family Residential Zoning District. On the left-hand side, you have the aerial photo. You can see from the green color here that the property is currently zoned R40. The property is northeast of the town of Bailey in the Green Pond community. Subject property, as you can see in the zoning maps, in the same general vicinity as several other tracts that the board recently rezoned to an RA20 conditional zoning classification for residential development. You can see those in yellow right around in this area, and then there's some more here in the southern part of the map down here. Those are for in this area, the closest ones, the Williams Ridge, Williams Grove, Whitley Crossing, and Strickland Road subdivisions. The East Group has submitted this request on behalf of the prospective developer, CT Williams Corporation, to rezone the property to RA20CZ, specifically for a 204-lot subdivision. Of course, this will reduce the minimum lot size from 40,000 square feet currently in half to 20,000 square feet. It would eliminate 9 land uses that are permitted under the current zoning district. The most notable of those would be double-wide manufactured homes, which would no longer be permitted under the new requested zoning district. The sketch plan submitted by the East Group shows the 204 proposed new lots that will be 20,000 square feet at least in area and 100 feet at least in width. 70 of the lots will be accessed directly from the existing Green Pond Loop Road, which you can see in here. That's the back of the currently existing Green Pond Loop Road. 134 lots would be accessed from a network of 8 new interior roads. Those interior roads do provide a stub connection to this property, which is otherwise landlocked right here. Although the development of this subdivision would increase the average daily traffic of Green Pond Loop well beyond 1,000 vehicles per day, this road is technically not subject to the additional lot width requirements because the DOT classifies it as a local road. And we just talked extensively about that in the text amendment. The Nash County Land Development Plan designates this as a suburban growth area. That's the area in yellow. You see that it is right along the boundary between the designated suburban growth area and the rural growth area, where there would be less density proposed, but it does fall within the boundaries of the suburban growth area. The subject property has access to Nash County Public Water Service. It could be extended from either direction, either from the end of the subdivision around here or from the intersection here, depending on how the developer chose to attack it. Because that property has access to public water, the requested rezoning is consistent with our land use plan recommendations. The request would not be unreasonable spot zoning. As I mentioned earlier, it would be consistent with the ongoing transition of this general area to an RA20 residential density. That's evidenced by these previously approved nearby subdivisions shown in yellow. The Technical Review Committee recommended approval of this request. The Planning Board considered it back on October 18th. Mr. Jimmy Glover, who represented an adjacent property owner, Green Pond Swine Farm, Inc., was there and requested the establishment of an access and utility easement to his adjacent property, which the applicant has now provided on the map. With a split vote of 6-1, the Planning Board recommended approval of the request. This is a one-motion process, so the board will be asked to either approve or deny the zoning map amendment. Simultaneously, you will adopt a statement of plan consistency and reasonableness, and the staff has drafted suggested motions for both. In the event that you recommend, or in the event that you approve the rezoning, there are 8 development conditions that we would ask you consider attaching to the approval. Number 1, the property would be developed according to the sketch plan we just looked at. It would be developed for the land uses permitted in the RA20 zoning district. All the residential lots would be served by Nash County Public Water to be extended by the developer as necessary. All the new road names would need prior approval by Nash County Emergency Services. We would require a stream buffer determination from the state. There are several lots that are on the corners of Green Pond Loop Road that would be required to have their driveways off the new interior roads through non-access easements. The development condition number 7 references the access easement that was granted to the adjacent property. And of course, number 8, significant or substantial modifications or revisions could subject this to re-review by the TRC, the Planning Board, or even the Board of Commissioners at the discretion of the zoning administrator. In the event that the board votes to deny the zoning map amendment, we would want to customize the statement of plan consistency and reasonableness to make sure that we're reflecting the specific reasons. Those reasons could be related to the proposal's requested residential density. For instance, if the board felt that the proposed 20,000 square foot per lot density was too dense for that area, the specific subdivision design could raise issues for the board, or the overall compatibility of the rezoning with the adjacent and surrounding area. So in the event that the board chooses to deny, we would probably want to customize that statement prior to its adoption, and both myself and the attorney stand ready to assist the board with that this morning. With that, I am going to pause and take any questions that the board has on the staff report.
Any questions of Mr. Tyson at this time? Seeing none, thank you, sir. I do see a number of people in the audience that I'm not sure why they may be here. Prior to asking for a show of hands, if anyone was here to speak on this item, as stated, we do not have to open the public hearing back up, but it is up to the chairman, it says, and I'd like direction from the board if they wish to receive comments this morning or not receive comments. Give me some guidance on that.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend if there are people here that wish to speak on it, that they be allowed to speak.
Okay.
I believe that too. We should allow them to speak.
Okay. Any objection to that?
No.
Okay.
Not for me.
Thank you. I will ask direction from the attorney. Hearing speakers at the pleasure of the board. Should I open the public hearing back up or just hear from the speakers?
I think you just go ahead and open it back up.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, I'd entertain a motion to open the public hearing up on this item at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Commissioner Bellfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. The ladies and gentlemen, the board has elected, as you heard, to open the public hearing back up on this matter in case someone is here that wishes to speak for or against it this morning. And it will be conducted as a regular public hearing. And at this time, if there's anyone that wishes to speak for or against this item, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sharon Eatman, 10654 Pace Road in Bailey. And I'm here opposing R20 on this property. I cannot imagine another 200 houses in the Bailey area that is now. It's unbelievable how many have been approved by this board to be built in that area. Not even considering, you keep saying that we've got water access to these properties. Yeah, but what's going to happen when you keep having all these households needing water besides the regular houses that are being built in other parts of the county? There are times of drought and other things, such as the woman said, getting water from Raleigh for the Middlesex area, not counting the schools. You're flooding the schools of Nash County in that part of the county with people that are going to come there with children, and the schools are already run over and short-staffed. Then let's talk about the rescue squads, let's talk about the sheriff's department and the fire departments that are going to have to look after these homes. And y'all keep adding and adding and adding. If nothing else, consider the R30 rather than the R20. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eaton. Others that have comments for or against this item? Thank you, Megan. Good morning.
Good morning. Michelle Clements with the East Group, Greenville, North Carolina. We are the engineers for Mr. Williams on this property, and as proposed, we did not make any changes to it because we felt like under the current UDO, it did meet that requirement. We have a traffic engineer with us who discussed, looked at traffic counts and safety along the roadway. This is Green Pond Loop Road, which means it is a loop road. It's not a thoroughfare. It doesn't have a lot of traffic on it. Some of the conditions that we talked about and that have been mentioned are things like roads with capacity deficiencies. This road, I don't think it would be fall under that, and based on the NCDOT guidelines for roadways that are considered local roads, they're intended to have have a lot of accessibility, which infers driveways. It also discussed heavily traveled roads. I don't think anybody would say that this road is a heavily traveled road currently. 200 lots are a good number of lots, but they're large lots. They're still half-acre lots. And the development of them is not going to be overnight. It is going to take some time to develop them. The roadway itself and the other conditions, the 8 conditions that Mr. Tyson spoke, we intend to meet all those conditions as we've added the access easement already to the adjacent property. And I'm ready to answer any questions you guys may have.
Any questions for board member of the engineer with the East Group?
My only thought is that we just made this a heavily traveled road. With 204 lots, based on what DOT says, we're adding 2,040 cars to that road a day. Trips, not cars. I'm saying you have
Yes, sir.
400, 500 cars added to it, but you're looking at 2,040 trips. I think you just made that a heavily traveled road.
Well, I would suggest, and I would ask you to recommend, or to consider that we are connecting with the through roads on this subdivision, so the intention is that people coming to this subdivision will just be coming to their homes. It won't be any true through traffic. And we do have 2 exits from the subdivision, one to the east and one to the west. So the traffic itself shouldn't be going around the loop. It should be headed out back to the main road. So if you split those counts, we are still close to that number that you're talking about. But the road we also connect to on the west end is also a local road. So it's lower counts on that road as well, which means less than 1,000. So we just consider the location of the properties, the fact that it's being asked to be rezoned, and the use of the property as its best use.
Are you talking about Horns Church Road?
Yes, sir.
And you say that's less than 1,000 cars a day?
It is on the west end of our connection point. At the point where it makes the turn, where there's another road that ties into it, it becomes a collector road.
I would think there's as many cars on one end of it as the other.
I don't know. I'm assuming the connection, just looking at the DOT maps, is how they've designated roadways.
Anything else, Mr.
That's all.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Nate Boquin with Ramey Kemp and Associates, traffic engineer in Raleigh, North Carolina.
What was the last name, sir?
Boquin, Bouquin.
Thank you.
I am a licensed professional engineer and a certified professional traffic operations engineer, so well-versed in traffic studies throughout the state. A couple of things I wanted to briefly touch on. The local road classification, this is straight from DOT's website, and it's actually from the Federal Highway Administration. Local roads are the most common roads by far, but also the slowest for travel. They're designed specifically to have high accessibility and to connect to collector and arterial roads, and are typically not used for through traffic. So a loop road like this fits that pretty much precisely. Another thing I wanted to point out, we did conduct a couple traffic counts out here. We conducted the counts right where we were proposing lots, so at the end of the loop road. In coordinating with DOT, they conducted their own counts, but they conducted theirs down at the end of the road. And so there was a little bit of a difference of opinion of what those counts were. Because they were counting theirs where there are existing lots, they were a little bit higher than ours. But where we were actually proposing lots at, because of the loop road, the nature of the loop road, it was very low volume. So it was essentially just our traffic that was added in there and distributed roughly 50-50 on either side there. And so we're on one side of the road, we are under the 1,000 ADT. On another side, we are over it for about 4 lots, but that's it. So we had previously looked at combining those, but when we reread the UDO and saw the local road classification was not in there, we went ahead and brought it back to how we had it before. So again, with the above those 4 lots, so the majority of that loop road, we are well under 1,000 ADT, just based on where that connector east-west road is. So not sure if you have any questions for me. Happy to.
But you just added 2,000 cars a day, according to state guidelines. You just added 2,000 cars a day, no matter what you got right now.
So we added to a road that is called Green Pond Loop Road, but since it is connected twice on the sides.
At least half of them are going one way or the other.
I'm sorry?
At least half those cars are going one way or the other.
Exactly.
But still, you added 2,000 cars a day.
Other questions or comments of the traffic engineer? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Other speakers on this item?
I have a question before I speak. If I speak on this matter, am I allowed to speak on another item on the agenda as well?
Absolutely, sir.
My name's Michael Simonoff, 9894 Paul's Lane. I am here on another matter, but as we keep pointing out.
Would you state the last name again, please?
Simonoff, Simonoff.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure the
Yes,
clerk gets it.
I understand.
Thank you, sir.
Again, I'm here to speak on behalf of another issue, but we kept bringing up this loop road fact, and I just kind of felt obligated to speak. I imagine most of these people are going to be going one way on the loop road, as it's going to put them out closer to their destination, heading towards 264 or Wilson, more so than the west or east side, depending on how you want to look at it. So while they might be saying 50-50, I imagine a lot of these people would be going one way more than the other way. Just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Good point, sir. I do hope they will be headed to Nash County, though, but that remains to be seen. Someone else wish to speak?
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir. My name is Cecil Williams, live at 6765 Jordan Road, Elm City. Could you put us back out in a little bit further out to where we can see the connections to Hornchurch Road, please? I don't know how to work equipment.
Yeah, well, that's about the best we're going to be able to do. So
You had one.
that was in my presentation?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe the, that one?
Right one. How about a pointer? How do I point?
Use that mouse right there, and there'll be an arrow. Move it, and you can see.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
How about that?
Ain't that something in this world? Our contention is that we realize there's 200 houses on a subdivision, but we have a road, I lost the map. We got an interior road that connects somewhere along here and goes across over to here. And we realize that from here back this way, and from wherever that road connects to the loop road, back to Hornchurch Road, we realize that's going to be heavier traveled. We understand that. But we, on the loop road, when we put our connection street across here, now we have a situation where we have a block. Our connector street, right here, back down to the Hornchurch Road on both sides, we'll have more traffic. But the DOT's and the county's aim is with safety of the driveways and the traffic count. My contention is that from that, our cross street back in this area here is where we're having our 100-foot, we're requesting our 100-foot lot widths and 100-foot driveways. Somewhere in here, there's going to be a house that will have 10 trips a day. And that will be because it's that house that's in the middle. We realize that the people are going to come to Hornchurch Road past our connection street. And see, that brings that, when we put our connection street in, I guess I'm thinking by definition, a loop road doesn't have cross streets in it. And the new loop road starts at our connector street and goes the back around this way. And then it's a regular street from where our T road is back to Horns Church Road on both sides. From our T road is a regular road back here, but back in here, this would still be called a loop road. And we won't have, there's very little traffic on this whole, and if there's 70 lots, then that's 700 cars. That'd be 350 going one way and 350 going another way, hypothetically. And that's sort of where our point of contention is. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from board members of Mr. Williams?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have other speakers wish to speak on this matter? Anyone else? Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett, or second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Public hearing is now closed, and any other discussion from the board? Would remind you that it states that this is in Commissioner Leggett's district. Any other questions?
Just one clarification, Mr. Chairman, if you would. I believe Mr. Boquin, I believe I pronounced that correctly. He made some comments related to road traffic and so forth, but Mr. Boquin is not a member of DOT, is that correct?
He is a private traffic engineer, as I understood it.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that point because it would be very unusual for the DOT to speak in a public hearing like this.
Understood.
Thank you.
And your point's well taken. Other comments? Seeing none, pleasure of the board to entertain a motion at this time.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I move to deny the conditional rezoning request to R20CZ for the Green Pond Loop Road subdivision and adopt this statement, plan of consistency and reasonableness that states that this is unreasonable and not in the public interest because of the significant number of houses built directly on a Nash County roadway and the highway safety issues that it would create.
Second.
I think you meant to say a North Carolina State road rather than Nash County.
Well, it's a roadway in Nash County.
It is, correct, okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Leggett and a second by Commissioner Combs, I think.
That's right.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this matter?
Yes.
On this motion?
I didn't understand the motion, so I'd like to hear it.
Okay, I'll ask Mr. Leggett to repeat the motion.
So my motion was to deny the rezoning request, and because of the number of houses that are on the roadway.
Gotcha.
And I read all that because we're doing the motion and the consistency statement in one.
One motion, correct. Other questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign?
Opposed.
Motion carries 6-1. All right, that was item number 13. I haven't had a signal for a break. We want to keep moving, board members? We'll keep moving. Number 14 is another public hearing. It is on a conditional rezoning request, CZ 211102, for the Seamster Phase 2 subdivision. Mr. Tyson.
This is also a residential rezoning. The next two items after this will turn our attention to commercial rezonings, but this is our last residential matter of the day. The subject property is outlined in red on both the left and right side of your screen. You have an aerial photo and a zoning map. This is 38.73 acres. It's owned by Ned Coleman and EMA Land Development LLC. It's located on the south side of Bullhead Road, and so Bullhead Road runs right here along the northern boundary of the subject property. It is north of the US Highway 264 bypass and east of the town of Bailey. So the town of Bailey will be off to the left of these maps. The northern portion of this property in red is zoned R40, as denoted by the green color in this area right here. And the southern portion of the subject property has already been rezoned to RA20CZ. It was rezoned as part of the old Smithfield Road subdivision, which the board approved back in April of this year, and the Seamster subdivision, which the board approved in September of this year. So Old Smithfield Road was this strip on the left-hand side, and Seamster Phase 1 was the strip on the right-hand side. The site is not located in a floodplain. It is in the Neuse River Basin and the WS3 PA Watershed Protection Overlay District, meaning that regardless of the zoning, 20,000 square foot would be the smallest lot size that would be allowed by state watershed regulations. The southern boundary of the property is this red line right here. It is defined by the Beaver Dam Creek, and that, of course, would be subject to riparian buffer requirements to protect it from disturbance as this subdivision was potentially developed. The owners of the property have submitted this rezoning request to rezone the green portion right here from R40 to RA20CZ, so that it would match the rest of the yellow colored portion of that property. The lot size of 20,000 square foot has already been approved for the southern portion, so this would approve it in this small northern portion that's green. And then it would reconfigure 25 existing lots that are in this area slightly and add 24 new lots to the overall design. So it's a net increase of 24 new lots related to this subdivision. The request would, of course, reduce that lot size by half, but only in the green portion, because the yellow portion that's already been accomplished. There are 9 land uses that are currently permitted in the green that would no longer be permitted if it were rezoned to RA20. And again, just like the last request, the most notable of those is double-wide manufactured homes. And this is a conditional request. So if approved, the subdivision must be developed in accordance with the sketch plan that we're about to review. And there's the opportunity for the board to attach conditions to the application. If we'll turn our attention to the actual sketch plan that's proposed, Stocks Engineering prepared this for Seamster Subdivision Phase 2 to serve as a required site plan for the rezoning request. It reconfigures 25 lots in the southern area that were already previously approved as the northern portions of those 2 subdivisions, Old Smithfield Road and Seamster, and then adds an additional 24 in the northern area up here for a total of 49 new residential lots within the total boundary that we're looking at. The lots would be located along a network of 5 new interior public roads. Those roads provide one stub road connection to the Old Smithfield Road subdivision to the south right here, crossing the Beaver Dam Creek. It provides 2 stub road connections to the undeveloped properties to the east here, and 2 stub road connections to the undeveloped properties to the west here and there. None of these lots are proposed for direct access to the main road, Bullhead Road. They would all have driveways that are accessible from the interior road of the subdivision. All the lots would have to be at a minimum of 20,000 square feet in area, a minimum of 100 feet wide. And the developer, of course, would be required to construct new water lines within the interior of the subdivision to connect each new lot to the existing county public water system. The land development plan designates this entire area as a suburban growth area. The plan supports the rezoning of property to RA30 or RA20 at the board's discretion if it has access to county public water. This property does have access to an existing 4-inch water line installed along either the old Smithfield Road right-of-way to the south, and so it would connect to this road through the old Smithfield subdivision into Seamster Phase 2, or there is also a water line 4 inches in diameter a little bit to the east in the Bullhead Road right-of-way off in this direction, so it could be connected from either way. The request would obviously not be spot zoning because this small portion that's R40 is immediately adjacent to this RA20CZ, and so it would just be an extension of that yellow to fill the remainder of the red box that indicates the subject property. The property currently is and will continue to be zoned for residential use, similar to the adjacent and surrounding properties. And approval of the request would permit smaller minimum lot areas and increased density, but is also more restrictive in terms of the type of homes that can be built as it eliminates double-wide manufactured homes. The Technical Review Committee considered this request back on November 3rd and recommended approval. The Nash County Planning Board held a public meeting on this request on November 15th. Mr. Kevin Varnell with Stocks Engineering addressed the board in support of the request on behalf of the applicant. There were multiple members of the public who addressed the board in opposition to the request. They expressed concerns regarding the increased residential density and traffic, the loss of forest and farmland, the potential environmental impact to the Beaver Dam Creek, the potential accumulation of trash, and safety issues related to increased demands on local EMS and law enforcement. Those citizens included Ms. Sharon Eatman. She is an adjacent property owner to the southwest of this property. Mr. Michael Simonoff of Paul's Lane, and Wilbur Pace, Timmy Bailey, Mary Ann Pace, and Cindy Childress, all of Bullhead Road. With a split vote of 6-2, the planning board did vote to recommend approval of the request and the statement of plan consistency and reasonableness below. The planning board recommended 4 development conditions be attached to the approval, if that is the will of the board. The first, of course, is that the subdivision would have to be developed in accordance with the approved sketch plan. The property will be developed for the land uses permitted in the requested RA20 zoning district. All the residential lots must be served by county public water to be extended by the developer as necessary, and any significant changes would subject it to potential re-review and reapproval. You have a motion in your packet to approve, a motion to deny. Again, if you approve, please keep in mind the 4 development conditions, and if you choose to deny it based on the requested residential density, the specific subdivision design, or an overall incompatibility with the surrounding area, we would like to specify that reason in the motion, as Ms. Leggett did on the last item. So keep that in mind. With that said, I'm going to pause and take any questions that the board has.
Any board member have a question, Mr. Tyson, on this item? Mr. Tyson? Excuse me, Mr. Belfield, please go ahead.
I was just going to make a comment.
Sure.
It connects to already R20. We're not talking about that much.
If we approve this, does that road, and Ned might have to answer this, does that road come all the way across the creek, or are you going to stub it off from both sides and not cross the creek?
The current proposal that you see on your screen has the road and the water line coming across the creek. There have been some discussions, the applicant has had some discussions with their design professional about potentially just entering from the north to the creek and developing from the south to the creek and allowing that to remain a natural boundary. If they decide to do that, we can bring you a different plan, but for today, the plan that's on the table does have a road and a water line coming from the south crossing the Beaver Dam Creek area.
Just seems like it'd be more practical to come from both ways and not cross the creek.
The water line needs to.
Do what?
The water line needs to.
Needs to come across the creek.
You need to tie both ends together, yes.
Okay.
But that's in the engineering matter. I shouldn't have said that probably.
And I'll also just add that anything that crosses a creek, whether it's a water line or a road, is going to be subject to a lot of environmental regulation and review at the state level that's not handled by the county, but would be required and would have to take place.
Mr. Tyson, do you happen to have a plan with you of the original Phase 1 of this subdivision?
I do.
Mike could see.
If we could switch to the document camera. This is the original design for Old Smithfield Road. This was the first section of the subdivision to be approved. And so the entrance is off of Old Smithfield Road. In this design, you see that there was a cul-de-sac here for a phase break between Phase 1, which would be on the south side of Beaver Dam Creek, and Phase 2. Phase 2 has now been redesigned as part of this rezoning. And so everything north of the creek and this chunk of property here, which leads over Bullhead Road, which has been acquired by the builder, is now being reconfigured. Everything south of the creek would remain as proposed here. And then on the eastern side, in this area, Seamster subdivision was approved later in September of this year. And as you can see, north of the creek, it just proposed one large lot, which has now been divided up as part of the reconfiguration. But everything south of the creek line would remain the same as previously approved.
That clears it up for me.
Okay.
I was a little bit, couldn't quite remember how it laid out. Thank you. Actually, a better design. Okay, any other questions of Mr. Tyson? Thank you, Mr. Tyson. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Combs, there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing to hear from anyone in the public who wishes to speak on this rezoning matter and the Seamster Phase 2 subdivision. So if you would come up and state your name and address for the record, we'd be glad to hear from you. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for your time. My name is Michael Simonoff, S-I-M-O-N-O-F. I do live on Bullhead Road, which is across the road from that, Paul's Lane off of Bullhead Road, which is immediately across. I am a fifth-generation family member to live on that property. My family is here, my neighbors is here. In fact, if you look out, everyone except for about 2 adjoining members are here to support the opposition to this. The 2 that did not come, one does not live in the area, and the other one said it was a waste of time because you have already made up your mind. And we are all hoping that is not the case, and we would like for you to have open minds and open hearts to this. We were not here for the first time because this subdivision was coming in from Old Smithfield. We were not notified because of the 600-foot rule. When the property was acquired off of Bullhead Road, that is when we were notified, and we have made every meeting so far as they had already brought up, and we did have a 6-2 vote against us at the planning meeting. But we have been here since we have been notified. All of us, and even more in the community, oppose the rapid development of rural Nash County, the R20. I've spoken to many community members, not just adjoining landowners, and they do not like the R20. I've emailed all 7 commissioners, and I appreciate the 2 that have replied, and I hope that the remaining ones are just a little bit backlogged on their email, and they will get back to me on that. I'd like to know, when does the majority of people get a say of what is happening, not just the people within 600 feet? I did stumble across a survey that the county had released asking Nash community members what did they want for use of land and other items. So I hope that survey has either been completed and compiled, or that maybe we are considering waiting on some of these decisions until you have all of that information. Just some quick stats that I pulled up over searching through endless meetings and agendas. The Stony Hill and Needham Road subdivision had 291 lots. There's more off of Whitley Road that I could not find. I'm going to guess that there's roughly 30 or more that was approved on that. I'm sure you have this information. Off of Strickland Road, there was 209 approved lots. Loop Road just requested 204, but as you know, that was denied, so we'll see what that number comes to. Those were all farms from L&F Farms. That is over 600 lots just from L&F Farms. And these farms, these subdivisions are literally in the middle of nowhere. I encourage you, go by it, look where they're requesting. It's farmland. How are these farmers going to farm right up against the subdivision? You know the members of the subdivision aren't going to be happy with the dust and the spray and the chemicals being used. This subdivision alone that we're speaking on here have about 49 lots off of Bullhead, and best I can tell, over 60 from Old Smithfield side. So that's somewhere around 110 homes or more, or lots rather. I also noticed that outside of Middlesex, another 142 lots were approved. That's almost 1,000 lots that were approved in the Bailey Middlesex area within the last year or so. Who's moving into these homes? How many of these homes have children? I'd like to give you a few more stats that you're aware of because you just had a joint meeting with the school board. Bailey has 129 openings before they were at capacity. Middlesex, 119. Southern Nash Middle School, 61. Southern Nash High School only has 31 chairs for students before they are at capacity. And as the school board spoke to y'all, they let you know that these numbers were higher than this pre-COVID. They're expecting these numbers to naturally come back, probably due to students maybe being homeschooled or still virtual. So these numbers will of course go up. All of the high schools combined only have 698 available positions before they are at capacity. We're talking about 1,000 lots just in subdivisions. How many other homes have been approved? What all does the Bailey community offer for that? What are these kids going to do? Where are they going to be able to shop? It was brought up that it was just 10 more acres. Well, I'm sorry. 10 more acres is not a little bit to those of us that just live there. That is much more than that. And the property has now been redrawn to 30-some acres. So I question, if you deny this, which we beg you to do, will that all go back to R40? Can we start taking control of this rapid development? Only 10 more acres have been added, but we request that you consider R40 for that entire property. Are these people that bought this, are they going to build and develop this? Or are they just going to sell off lots once they have gotten this approval? If so, ask them what their intentions are. Do they plan on going across the Beaver Dam Creek, which is a swamp? How much money is it going to cost? Ask them specifics. We mentioned road off of Bullhead Road. There is no road. Excuse me. We mentioned public water. There is no public water off of Bullhead. He said a little bit to the east. What is a little bit? Half mile? Mile? But there is no water access down Bullhead between Old Smithfield and Pace Road. Please support our farmers. They've already been losing land to solar farms and not support developers' pockets. Are the septic systems going to be able to be maintained at a steady rate, 20,000? We're putting a lot of septic tanks in one area. Are there going to be room for repairs on that? The houses are being built quicker than we can ever build the schools. You asked that you needed to know when we will need more schools. Looking at the numbers, we already need more before 1,000 homes are being put in. These homes are higher than the population of Bailey. I beg you to control the growth. I've heard people say, you can't stop people from moving here, but you have the power to control at which rate and how they move here. You have that power. We ask you to take that in consideration. Let us not become a Johnston County. We don't want Bailey to be a Zebulon. I sent you an email, and in that email, I asked you to view the Southern Nash High School graduation from 2021, in which a student, Zolly Alford, made a wonderful speech about how Southern Nash is not a place. Southern Nash is a people. Please help support the people of Southern Nash and keep our community the way it is, the way that we grew up, the way that we love it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Other speakers? Good morning, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Gail Summernoff. That was my son just speaking. Did a good job, too. I live at 9759 Paul's Lane, which is right off of Bullhead Road. We've lived here for many generations, my ancestors. We still have a lot of traffic on Bullhead Road. I don't know who's governing it, but we have a lot of traffic, and if everybody that lived on it were here, they'd tell you. We don't have enough land for all these houses. The schools, we would have to build new schools. We'd have to increase police departments, fire departments, emergency service, medical. Where's the money coming from? The taxes from these new houses is not going to do it, not in time to be able to service them. The waste department, where we take trash, they're gonna have to be built more. I don't think the income for all these houses, once they are built for the taxes, is going to pay for all this. It's mind-boggling. The natural habitat for the small animals, it's going to be disturbed more than it already is. We have to look at the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Wilbur Pace. I live at 4210 Bullhead Road, directly across from the proposed development. You've heard from some of my family members, and I echo their sentiments. Our family has owned this land for well over 100 years, and a development of this size will dramatically change the character of this community. I've yet to talk to any property owner up and down Bullhead Road that is in favor of this development. In fact, everyone I have spoken with is adamantly opposed to it. Unfortunately, an extremely large number of people in this community that stand to be negatively impacted by this development don't even realize it's already been approved. Why? Because of the 600-foot rule. And that's already been stated, so I won't go into that further, but I think that's a disservice to the overall community not to be informed of this. Can you honestly tell me that a development of this scale is only going to affect those property owners directly adjacent within 600 feet? Of course not. It stands to negatively affect the entire community. So when the developer made a request to the county to rezone the initial tract of farmland on Old Smithfield Road to residential R20, almost no one in the community was even aware of this, and they certainly weren't aware they had a chance to voice their opposition in a public forum like this. The county approved that request. The developer came back, added another large tract of farmland, what was farmland, to their request to rezone. The county approved that. Then the developer decided their development just wasn't big enough. They wanted to stretch it all the way across the wetlands of Beaver Dam Creek over to Bullhead Road, which brings us to today. They've come once again looking to cram even more houses onto this additional tract of land by rezoning it to R20. So I ask you, who is going to benefit from allowing this developer to cram even more houses onto this land? Not the people who've lived in this community for generations. How is this going to serve the community? It won't. The community doesn't want this development in the first place. The only thing it's going to serve is to provide even more profit to the developer. So with all due respect, to date, the county has really done nothing but ignore the community members that have spoken out against this development. And I can tell you that approving yet another rezoning from R40 to R20 will just add insult to injury. It will be another slap in the face to the people that have called this community home for generations. The county has already given this developer everything they have asked for to date. They have already won. And now they're asking for more. We're literally talking about whether this developer gets to add 24 more houses to the 100 and whatever they already have approved. So either way, they're going to make lots and lots of money at this community's expense. This is your opportunity to do the right thing today. We respectfully ask that you do not approve their request to rezone to R20. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pace. Do I have others that wish to speak for or against this item? Ms.
Yes,
Eaton?
sir. Sharon Eatman, 10654 Pace Road in Bailey. I've been here every time something has come up on this property, and every time I was assured that Beaver Dam would not be crossed, would not be bothered, the environmentalists were going to protect it and all that stuff. And now you come and they want to put a street across it and a water line across it. And I don't care what anyone says about protecting the creek, there will be damage. It's just going to happen. Anybody that knows anything about this kind of project knows that. And when you're crossing it, the traffic alone, the people throwing trash out, and they do it, throwing the trash out, all of that is going to disturb that creek. I ask that if you do approve this, that you put the limitation that no road can be built across Beaver Dam and no water line. Let each side go out the road that it is on, whether that be the Bullhead Road or the Smithfield Road. And if you want to see traffic, get on the Smithfield Road. The traffic is unbelievable, and now you're adding all these houses and talking about bringing ones from the other side over to this side as well. Y'all, please, help this community, help save this small community, and don't continue to let all these houses be built there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Seaman. Good morning, sir.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Timmy Bailey. I live on 4373 Bullhead Road. I just like to point out, everybody keeps calling it Beaver Dam Creek. Yeah, they call it Beaver Dam Creek. It's not a creek, it's a swamp. I mean, me and my wife and kids, we were just in there this weekend. There's water standing this deep. It's 3 times as wide as this room here is. That's not a creek, that's a swamp. And the conditions now are actually dry. So whenever we get rain, hurricane, flood, it gets even worse than what it is right now. And as far as actually Bullhead Road, Out of all the people who live on Bullhead Road, I know, including myself, there's 5 tractor trailers that leave every morning and come home every night. And there's 2 large farms on Bullhead Road. You know, so you get all them houses built, all the traffic. You know, I don't know if you've ever been down Bullhead Road, but it's like a 18-foot wide asphalt. All the farm equipment now is at least 20 foot wide. You can't get up and down the road now to get from field to field as it is. I mean, I understand everybody wants to create housing, create jobs, but as far as creating them houses, you're actually taking jobs. I mean, Nash County was built by farmers. It's always been farmland. I don't see why anybody would want to take it away. All the people in the community, we all get along with the farmers, all get along with the truck drivers, but we're not going to be able to get along with all the traffic that's on the road. And including my house that is on Bullhead Road and 3 more houses, my front porch is literally 30 foot from the asphalt. So you add, I mean, that's like 30 foot is from here to that wall. You adding all that traffic, 70, 80 miles an hour right by your house. I mean, this ain't something that we need. And the way they got the house plans set up, all the back doors is to my side of the property. So when people take the trash out, they're gonna take the trash out the back door, set it in the backyard. When the storm gets up, it's gonna blow right across my property. I don't throw no trash in neither one of your properties. I don't want nobody throwing trash in my property. I ain't clean, well, let me say how to say this. I ain't cleaning up nobody's trash. That's just how it's gonna be. A couple weeks ago, me and my wife and kids are sitting in the house. You already got people up and down the road throwing trash out. Heard something hit the front door and it was a beer bottle. Somebody come by the house, chunked the beer bottle out, landed right on my front porch against my front door. And it's gonna only get worse with these houses. We don't need it. And another thing, I've already been told the developers, if they get it approved for R20, it's automatically up for sale. The ones that's trying to get it approved is not gonna build houses nowhere. They're just looking to get it for R20s. That way they can put double the houses out there as what they would if it was R40. It's gonna be sold. They're gonna get their money. Their bank accounts is gonna be fat. Nash County Tax Department, they're gonna get more tax money, and all the people in the community, we got to put up with the trash. That don't need to happen. And when all these people, when you're living on a half-acre lot, everybody out in the country, they won't have a four-wheeler. When they go to crossing my property or anybody else's property in the community, what do? Do we run out there and snatch them off of it? Or do we call the law, and when the law gets there, they're already gone, they say, well, ain't nothing we can do about it. That don't need to happen. Let me see. Well, I mean, oh yeah. On the second track, well, I own 2 tracks. I own one track that butts to Bullhead Road, then it skips, and I own another track. Where's that map at? Well, y'all might can see it.
That show you what you...
Well, it's actually where the houses. Right here's the track on right here. On the map where they got the houses split up, they got a road that's coming right up behind my track, and they got 4 houses. You can't put 4 houses there. They show on that map that they got a ditch that comes right through here that leads to the swamp. But that ditch splits off in 3 different directions. And off of my property, there's a ditch where the water comes off of my property and it joins onto that property, and it splits in 3 or 4 directions. But they got a road showing where they're gonna put a road and 4 houses right where that ditch is. So if they do that, all the water that's on my property is gonna probably stay on my property. That don't need to happen. It's all wetland. Pretty much everywhere there's trees right here, there's a ditch that goes all the way around it. You don't need to be crossing no ditch when it splits off in 3 or 4 ways. That's wetland, or swamp, what I call it. I think that's pretty much about everything I need to say. But I really, really appreciate that it didn't become R20, it stay like it is. I mean, it's been like that for years and years and years, and we ain't never had no problems. We're not trying to create problems now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
I am Mary Ann Pace, and I live at 4032 Bullhead Road. We do not have any road frontage. We're across the road from where this housing development is going to be built. Virginia Hayes owns the land in front of us, and there's probably going to sell that too. That means we got a right-of-way to go through there, and it means I'm going to be going through somebody's yard before it's over with. Well, you know, I work with the sheriff's office. I retired from the state. And Sheriff Brown called me after I retired from the state and asked me to go to work with them. And after I did, several times I heard this same remark, "Oh, you're from the other side of the river." So that means that we're on the bad side, according to what everybody thought. But we're on a good side. And you know, we need somebody to think about us and take care of us. Because if they put all those houses in there, that means more people, more problems, and just more of everything. My husband's 91, and I'm 88. We cannot make any changes. We're too old. I would appreciate your consideration. My sugar's dropping, so I'm getting nervous. I'm sorry. Please consider no more houses than necessary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Pace, and I'd like to assure you on behalf of the board that we don't look at what you described like that. I'm not saying it never wasn't, but this board doesn't look at the bad side of the river at all. But I understand your comment.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Childress, and I live at, actually I got 2 addresses on Bullhead Road. 4016 would be one of them. I guess that's enough to say. As I said in the last meeting, I retired in 2013, and I'm a retired truck driver. And I noticed all over the United States how bad the trash was in my driving. And I thought, wow, you know, one day when I retire, I'm going to help my community out. And that's what I've done. I keep up a 4-mile stretch on Bullhead Road. It's 4 miles, it's 2 miles each way. Actually, 1 mile one way out of the driveway, 1 mile to the other. If you add that up, that's a 4-mile stretch when you pick up both sides of the road. Now, we just saw on the news the other night about this trash pandemic. Now, I know that's not what we're speaking of, but in essence, we are. Because every household generates lots of trash. And I can assure you, I'm the one picking it up on Bullhead Road. Now, if you go through this creek or swamp, whatever how you want to look at it, then, which I pick up every day, I go right down through there and pick it up. I picked it up last night after dark 30, and I picked it up this morning. That's how fast it goes out there already. not considering all these houses that'll go through. And the next thing I ever understood was, if I was on the rooftop and 40 people jumped off in front of me, and the one right before me said, "Come on, go with the group," then that's what I'm seeing is happening here. If all this has been looked at and already pondered over from this 40 to 20 basis, I think that's quite enough for one organization or person or company in comparing to the people that live here. And let's just, we don't have to jump off the roof. We can stay at that 40, or we can go to that 20 and just make the problem worse for our community. And going across this creek, if that ends up happening, it's more trash, just like they had on the news about the oceans being filled with plastics. And I can guarantee you the back of my car that I have let become a part of our community stays full of trash that I take to the dump myself on a regular basis. And we'd like to keep it, at least keep the trash down a little bit. At least there is someone out trying to make a difference, And I don't ask for any compensation. I just ask to ride up and down my road and see a nice, clean pathway that I can't see anywhere else at the moment. So I'll beg upon you, don't jump off the roof just because all the rest has been said that it's okay for 20 versus 40. We can make some kind of amends here, obviously. That's what we're all here for, to help each other out. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Childers. Good morning.
Hi. My name's Esther Williams. I live at 3912 Bullhead Road,
Could
and I
you
own a
repeat your
farm.
first name again, please?
Esther.
Esther, thank you.
Yes. And I agree with my neighbors. I'm not in favor of this. I raised my daughter up here. She lives on Eatman Road. And you're putting all these houses in between. My grandkids, they ride their little bikes and whatever to my house. And that's just overpopulated. Don't know what kind of people are going to be out there. And now you want to go from 40 to 20. And I don't agree with that. I mean, when I look across my property, I see farmland, and I own a farm. So I'd appreciate it if you just take it into consideration. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Do you have anyone else wishes to speak for or against this item? Morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Kevin Varnell with Stocks Engineering, representing the owner-developer. If you remember, I guess the original Phase 1 was the Old Smithfield Road subdivision. And in that sketch, we actually showed the property going north of the creek. And really the only option to get to the northern side of the creek was to cross Beaver Dam Creek there. And so after those discussions, there were, I guess, several requests for a road connection all the way through, and again, a water connection to be able to close 2 dead-end loops there. So the property, or I guess the developer, went to or approached the property owner to the north that connects Bullhead Road, and was able to obtain that property. So that's kind of why we're back here today, is really because of multiple concerns there were of Beaver Dam Creek and a water line connection and being able to get all the way through. So essentially, this development is connecting those two pieces and trying to put those two parts together. And again, I'm not sure the developer wants to cross that swamp or wants to cross that creek. I think it would be the desire not to do that from a road construction standpoint. I think there could be some options to bore a water line underneath the creek and not have a true physical connection through there, if that's something the commissioners wanted to do. Again, it was really, we stayed with the same sketch because the original sketch had shown that. And then ultimately, we now have the connection to the north, so it just seemed to make the most sense logically to do that. And then obviously, when we purchased that piece of property and then did the realignment of those roads, it made sense to go ahead and make sure the properties were utilized as best we could to make those connections together. So, but again, a lot of this is just a spur of some initial conversations that were had, trying to avoid those creek crossings, trying to avoid some of those environmental impacts, and that's why the additional property was purchased on Bullhead Road. So I'll be happy to answer any specific questions you have.
Questions of Mr. Varnell?
Do you think the developer would consider not crossing the creek with the road or the water lines, or is that the best option to cross the creek? Or
I guess from an engineering standpoint, and I'm not going to speak for the county engineer, from an engineering standpoint on the water side, the county would always like to avoid two dead-end water lines for sure. From a water quality standpoint, we want water kind of loop through. You're going to get more water quality and better water service by connecting the water lines. But other than that, the creek crossing with the street, I don't know that that's a specific request of the developer. I'm sure that's an expense that he would not like to pursue. And then, again, any of the stubs that are shown were requests of the planning department as well. So the street connections and the crossings are completely up to the purview of this board as to whether you'd like to require that or make a condition not to cross the creek.
I've got another question.
Please go ahead.
Do you think the developer would consider any other additional wetlands protections over and above what's shown on the sketches? The swamps and wetlands really play a vital role in protecting against flooding.
Absolutely.
You know, our weather patterns have changed, and, you know, there needs to be that room to absorb the water, and especially with roads and driveways and houses coming, it's going to put more stress on that land.
Right. So right now, what you have before you is a sketch plan. So none of the wetlands have been evaluated by the wetland scientists. So ultimately, that will be done. And so once that's done, those wetlands will be identified. And then ultimately, we have to actually get approval from the State Department of Environmental Quality for stormwater control. So there'll be a lot of other measures that go into place once that's done. But again, right now, we're really just showing you, I guess, a high-level version of what that sketch looks like. So as that information comes in and as more design plans are done, then a lot of that stuff will be delineated out. But the answer to that question is yes. I mean, certainly the wetlands are going to be protected as much as possible. And again, if the road crossing is taken off, then that obviously reduces a lot of that.
Other comment from commissioners? Mr. Farnell, you did say there was an option where the water line could be tied through without the roadway, if I heard you correctly.
That's correct. So one option would be we could bore underneath the creek, or bore underneath the swamp. And obviously, we would start on one side and go under it. So really, there would be very little impact to the surface of it. And then the county would need to decide as far as a maintenance access or area, how we want to address that.
I think your point of not having dead-end water lines, particularly the lengthy side, would be very important to any future residents you add on there.
Right.
All right, any other comments? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else that wishes to speak for or against this item?
Can I clarify one of these?
What, Dan?
I said, you got someone wanting to clarify.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time on that. I just want to make sure we're talking about not deadheading the water line. Again, where is this water coming down Bullhead? Because there's no water down Bullhead at this time. So that's something the county's going to also have to run down the road if you're not talking about deadheading the water line. So I just wanted to clarify that there is no water supply there.
Actually, that would be a cost to the developer because we would require that to be tied to the water line.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Wherever it may be.
Where's the water line at on that side, Adam?
I'm not sure how far it's to the east of the map that we're looking at along Bullhead. I'm not exactly sure where the current termination is.
It's on Old Smithfield.
But on new developments, the county does not expend taxpayers' money to bring water to a new development of this nature. It's up to the developer to do that. Have anyone else who wishes to speak? Seeing no one move, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Public hearing is now closed, and I would entertain any discussion from the board on this matter.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to go ahead and make a motion that we table this request. There's too many questions here that I don't think we've answered and the concern of the community, and I'd just like to table it till we get some clarity on some other things. I'll make that a motion.
I would, I, of course, will entertain that motion. I'd like for you to state to a specific time or not to a specific time so it could be scheduled. Do you want to table it for 1 month, or what's your desire?
Yeah, table it till the January meeting.
Okay. Have a motion to table this rezoning matter to the January meeting. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Is that correct?
Both at the same time.
Okay. All right, both same time, I'm sorry. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign?
No.
Motion carries on a 6-1 vote to table the matter until the first meeting in January, Mr. Tyson.
Mr. Chairman, just to assist the developer and the applicant, the questions that we're looking to answer, do they mostly focus on the crossing of the creek?
I think that's one big question. What are we going
Okay.
to do there?
And any other specifics that we're looking to have before January?
I think some specifics on, well, go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead.
About the wetlands protections and whether that road's going to come through.
All right.
Mr. Combs, anything else?
I think that covers it. I mean, you know, it's just a decision we got to make, and it's a hard one to make because of everybody's concerns, and I share all the sentiments of those concerns, and then you know, you can't stop growth, and it's hard to tell somebody what to do with their own land, and that's just my feelings.
All right, that was item number 14. Does the members that came here today understand the action of the board? Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, does the board intend to hold another public hearing or simply to make a decision at the next meeting? Because it was properly held and closed today.
Right. I'm going to speak for the board, and if I need to be corrected from a board member, I'll certainly give them the opportunity to do that, but I think we held a significant public hearing and heard quite a few ideas and comments and concerns. I don't know that we would need to hold another public hearing, but I will pause at that point and see if anyone objects to the statement I made.
I think we should do the same thing we did on the one previous. If somebody shows up and they want to address it, I think we should allow it.
All right, I have a board and a member that are not in sync, so I will ask the board to join in on the discussion and let me know how you feel about it. Do we want to have another public hearing on the matter? Do we need to let Mr. Tyson know so he can properly notice it?
I agree with Commissioner Combs that if someone shows up and wants to speak, it'll refresh our memories
Okay.
of what went on.
Everybody okay with that decision? Seeing no objection, the answer is yes, Mr. Tyson.
All right, we will advertise and send public notices for a second public hearing And I believe that the January meeting falls on January 4. Is that correct?
Correct.
January 4 at 9 o'clock.
Okay. All right, we're now on item I have been requested to have a 14-minute recess, and we will recess at this time and come back and start on item number 15. We are now on item number 15, which is another rezoning request, CZ 211101 for a general merchandise retail store at Samaria Crossroad. Mr. Tyson, you got some energy left, sir?
Yep. Subject property is a 2-acre tract of land owned by Morgan Properties LLC. It is immediately adjacent to the Farrell's Fire and Rescue Department. So if you're looking at the department, it's to the left if you're standing in the road. It's east of Samaria Crossroads, which of course is the intersection of Highways 97 and 231. As you can see from the map on the right, the property is green, meaning it is currently zoned R30 residential. It includes an existing dwelling that is slated for demolition and removal from the property. The southern portion of the property may be impacted by a stream feature that could be subject to the riparian buffer requirements. Public water or sewer service is not currently available in this area, so the future development of this property will utilize an on-site well and septic system. The property owner has submitted this rezoning request specifically to rezone it to GCCZ, to allow the development of a general merchandise store to be constructed and operated by the Dollar General Corporation. If we turn our attention to the site plan, the plan depicts a 10,640 square foot retail store with a 54 space paved parking lot. The rear portion of the property, so of course this is the highway right here, this is the fire department, and then this is the Dollar General with the parking lot. The rear portion of the property will be reserved for the septic system, which would be found in this area behind the building, and a stormwater management area, which of course it will be graded to drain into this area of the property right there. The site will be screened from the road by a planted vegetative buffer of both understory trees and evergreen shrubs. You can see those along the front edge of the parking lot there. It will be screened from the immediately adjacent residential properties to the east by a 6-foot opaque wooden fence that runs down this property line, and it actually turns the corner and heads over here to the existing vegetation. And then that existing vegetation, which is at least 25 foot wide, will be preserved as a screening buffer all the way around the southern and western sides. And because the fire department is not residentially zoned or residentially used, there is no particular mandatory screening requirement between the Dollar General and the fire department. The land use plan, we can turn our attention to that map. The request is consistent with the recommendations of the plan because of this large rural commercial area that was previously designated around Samaria Crossroads. You see the subject property outlined in yellow, meaning that it is already inside that area that was established to encourage the development of limited business and commercial land uses that are intended to serve a local customer base of the surrounding predominantly rural residents. And of course, that retail store would not have needs that would trigger a requirement for sewer service. It can be accommodated by a septic system. If we turn our attention back to the zoning map, this is reasonable in the public interest and not spot zoning because the request is an expansion of commercial zoning that already exists at the Samaria Crossroads intersection, including the site of the immediately adjacent fire and rescue department right here. The proposed screening measures should also mitigate the potential impact of the commercial development on the adjacent residentially zoned properties to the east and to the south. The Technical Review Committee considered this request on November 3rd and recommended approval. Planning Board considered this request at a public meeting on November 15th. Mr. Matt Louder with Bowman, North Carolina Limited, addressed the board in support of the request on behalf of the applicant. There was no one present to address the board in opposition. Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request and suggested 5 development conditions, which are fairly standard and are included in the suggested motion for approval. And then, of course, there is a suggested motion for denial, and the board would need to list the specific reasons. And with that, I will pause and take any questions that you have on the staff report.
Any questions from board members of this item? Thank you, sir. I'd entertain a motion for a public hearing on this matter at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing on item number 15, which is a general merchandise retail store near Samaria Crossroad. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak for or against this item, we'd be glad to hear from you this time. You would come forward and state your name and address for the record. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. I'm Brent Purdom. I'm with Bowman, North Carolina. Engineers that developed the plans, but Mr. Tyson's done a great job of explaining everything, so I'm just here in case if anybody has any other questions concerning the design or layout or anything.
Any question from board members of the engineer of record for the project? I have one. How many dollar stores can Nash County handle?
Probably about 8 more.
8 more, okay.
Sounds like you've got a plan.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Anyone else wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time. Moved by Commissioner Wilkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Public hearing is now closed. I would ask if board members have any more questions of Mr. Tyson. Any clarification needed? If not, entertain a motion for approval or denial.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion, we approve the conditional rezoning request.
Okay.
Do I need to say we,
You do, sir.
okay?
You can just say, subject to the statement of plan consistency and reasonableness and the development conditions.
Subject to the statement of plan consistency and reasonable and development conditions.
Okay. Have a motion by Commissioner Combs. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? That rezoning request is approved. Mr. Tyson, we're on item number 16, which is another general rezoning request, 72-11101 for a general commercial district at Joiner's Crossroad.
This is your final planning item today. It is a general rezoning, so we don't know or have a specific plan for its development. However, it is well located for a general rezoning request. The property outlined in red is 6.06 acres. It's owned by Roger C. Barnes Jr., and it's at the northwest corner of Joiner's Crossroads, which of course is the intersection of Highway 97 and South Halifax Road. Property is undeveloped. It's currently zoned R30, as indicated by the green color on the zoning map. The site is across South Halifax Road from Jack's Grocery, which is right here, and it is diagonally opposite of the Food Line Shopping Center, which falls on this property or on the zoning map, the large pink and red area right here. Property in question is subject to an existing 12-inch Nash County public water line along Highway 97 and an 8-inch public water line along South Halifax Road, and a future connection of those lines would be dependent upon the specifics of the proposed development. Subject property is not in a floodplain. It is in the Tar-Pamlico River Basin in the WS4 PA watershed district, meaning that its future development will be subject to stormwater management requirements. There's an existing ditch that defines the northern property line here that could potentially be subject to riparian buffer requirements to protect it from disturbance. The property owner has submitted this rezoning request to rezone the property from R30 to GC, General Commercial. The GC zoning district is primarily intended, I'm quoting from the ordinance, to accommodate a wide range of retail, service, office, and high-density residential uses. They are typically located with access to major thoroughfares and urban-type services and are intended to accommodate intensive commercial uses such as shopping centers, strip centers, business parks, freestanding highway-oriented business establishments. Included in your packet is an excerpt from the table of permitted uses, which lists the full range of land uses that are permitted for development in the proposed GC zoning district. When we look at the land use plan, it designates the subject property, which is shown in this yellow outline, as part of a general commercial area designated around Joiner's Crossroad. This area was established to encourage the development of more intensive and efficient commercial land uses in that area. And of course, as we already discussed, the subject property has access to public water along both adjacent rights of way. The request would be considered reasonable in the public interest and not spot zoning because it is an expansion of the already existing commercial zoning at the Joiner's Crossroad intersection, including Jack's Grocery, which is rural commercial. You have the existing Dollar General, which is general commercial. This is the ABC store that was recently constructed, the Food Line Shopping Center. And then earlier this year, the board completed a general rezoning to GC, just like what is requested today, but on the far side of the shopping center, so that parcel right there. The Technical Review Committee recommends approval. Planning Board met on November 15. Mr. Kevin Varnell with Stocks Engineering addressed the board in support of the request on behalf of the applicant. Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval. This is a general rezoning, so there are no conditions. You simply have a motion to approve or deny and to simultaneously adopt a statement of plan consistency and reasonableness. And I'll be glad to take any questions you have on the staff report.
Any questions at this time from board members? Mr. Tyson, this particular location, you say there are no conditions. Would it come to us that way, or is there an avenue which we could put conditions on it?
You could. If you determine that this property is not appropriate for a general commercial district, meaning that any of those things on the list could be developed, then you could turn down this rezoning and encourage the developer to come back with a conditional rezoning that would have a site plan and a specified use.
I didn't have in mind that drastic of a measure, but my concern is there is a proposed improvement to that intersection which would require additional right-of-way from this parcel that I would like to assist DOT in being able to have access to that when that project gets funded. And,
I don't think there's an avenue to do that under the request that is on the board's agenda today. There would be under a conditional rezoning, but it would take what I mentioned earlier to make it into a conditional rezoning, which is to specify use and a specific site plan.
Can the applicant make that change today?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Any other questions of Mr. Tyson?
Just a comment, that would be my recommendation, that we do come back with the GCCZ.
Let's, understood. Let's do the public hearing, then we'll see where we're at. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Tyson. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a public hearing on this rezoning request for general commercial at Joiner's Crossroad, and at this time, we'd be Be glad to hear from anyone in the audience that wishes to speak for or against this rezoning at this time. If you would come forward and state your name and address for the record. Mr. Farnell?
Good morning, Commissioners, again. I'm Kevin Varnell with Stocks Engineering, representing the developer and owner on this piece of property. To kind of get to your point, there is a roundabout proposed at that location. We have been in receipt of the sketch from DOT, not the final design because that has not been done as of yet. Our driveways are located so they do not interfere with that roundabout. DOT has seen that sketch and approved the locations for our driveways. So any right-of-way acquisitions that need to be done will be done through that process, and we're a long ways into understanding and knowing what those needs are. So I would ask that we not hold up the developer from moving forward for another month to wait for the conditional use, knowing that the developer is 100% aware of that issue that is there.
Okay. Any other comments you wish to make?
I'll be happy to answer other questions you have.
Questions from board members? Mr.
Well, I
Outlaw?
fully believe that this intersection and the area springing out from this intersection, especially on Highway 97, should be developed commercially. But I'd really like to see what's planned for this particular piece of property at this intersection. So therefore, I would be supportive of the CZ.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions or comments for the engineer? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else that wishes to speak for or against this rezoning at this time? Mr. Tyson, is that developer present today?
The property owner, Mr. Barnes?
Or the developer, proposed developer?
I think Mr. Barnell's on
Okay.
representative.
Okay, thank you.
I do want to clarify for the board that if you turn down this request in favor of a future conditional zoning request, that because it's a new request, would have to go to the planning board in January, and it would not be back before you until February. So we're actually talking about a 2-month delay, because that would have to start at the beginning of the review cycle. So that is the timetable for a conditional rezoning.
All right, thank you. Seeing no one else wishes to speak, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Public hearing is now closed, and further discussion from the board with any questions you have or any clarifications from Mr. Tyson? Mr. Tyson and Mr. Durham, are we sure we can't figure out a way to solve the issue that some board members have about the proposed, because this particular intersection has been on the, Wayne, I think this is the MPO and not the
It is.
RPO.
It is
It's the
MPO.
board that I serve on at Rocky Mount for some 3 or 4 years, and has been a large desire to get a better design than what we have, and we have the design now, but we don't have the funding quite yet, but it could show up at any time. And I, like Mr. Outlaw, have a lot of concern with rezoning it without seeing a plan specific that would include that improvement, because it's our chance to get it done. Is there nothing else we could do?
You could table this request, in order for it to be a 1-month delay instead of a 2-month delay, you could table this request until January and just ask Mr. Varnell to bring that information. It wouldn't be legally binding like a site plan tied to a rezoning is, but he could demonstrate the plans for accommodating the roundabout and the right-of-way acquisition at the January meeting under this general rezoning. But in order to make it a conditional rezoning, it has to begin life as a new request and go through the review process. There's no way to convert this today to a conditional rezoning.
I agree with them.
Thank you. Mr. Outlaw, you want some further guidance?
No, sir, I don't want to be difficult, but I would like to see a CZ on it.
Okay, all
And
right.
if that's 2 months, then that's probably good, because that would give us time then to have some discussion with DOT to try to finalize some type of plan for this.
Right, all right.
And I would put that in the form of a motion, that we delay it, bring it back as a CZ.
All right, I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Commissioner Combs. All of us understand the motion and the consequences.
Could we clarify, so this is a motion to deny and to adopt the statement of plan consistency and reasonableness that is under the motion to deny, where it says list specific reasons. The specific reason would be that the general rezoning is not appropriate at this time because of the pending NCDOT changes to that intersection. Is that
That
correct?
would be reasonable.
Okay.
So the motion actually becomes a motion to deny.
Correct.
You want to restate that, Mr. Outlaw?
Well, I would state it just the way Mr. Adams just stated it.
Okay.
Mr. Tyson just stated it.
Is the second concur with that? All right, we all understand the revised motion. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Varnell, any questions on what we're asking for? I'm sure you got it, hadn't you?
The answer is no, I understand what you're asking for.
Okay.
It's a bit frustrating on the developer's part to have to wait 2 months, but we certainly understand and knowing that we went through that process to make sure we met the DOT criteria is on those things.
Okay, thank you,
So
sir.
thank you.
All right, that was item number 16. And Mr. Piping, you're through.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Item number 17 is amendment number 8 for the ELJ Northern Nash Water System Project. Now I'll call on Mr. Boone at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, fellow
If you
commissioners.
hurry up, I can say good morning, sir.
Yeah, it's close. As you had indicated, item we have before you this afternoon is another change order on the Northern Nash Water System Project. While physical construction on the project is nearly complete, we still have a number of administrative items that we are working to address, one of which is the item I have before you today. This is for work that has been completed on the project. The bulk of the change order is related to a bore that was required on Northern Nash Road underneath the driveway to the Northern Nash High School. The pavement section there ended up being much thicker than we had originally anticipated. And to minimize disruption to the school, we elected to work with the contractor to bore that driveway. And then the second item is for a culvert crossing that we encountered. Initially, it was anticipated we would be able to go over the culvert. Due to the depth of the culvert, we ended up actually having the contractor bore under the culvert. So the change order you have before you is for those two items for a total of $22,300. And with that said, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, Mr. Boone, on these two items?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
How did they miss the situation there in connection with that Northern Nash that caused them to have to do this change order?
Typically, they are not going to field verify the depth of the driveway. The asphalt section ended up being much deeper than what you would typically anticipate. Of course, it's, once you think about it, it's maybe not necessarily unexpected that with the amount of traffic in and out of that driveway, particularly buses, that's a much deeper section. But once the contractor determined that it was a 12-inch section of asphalt, and we compared the numbers to cut the driveway versus bore the driveway, and then the inconvenience that it would create if we were open cut the driveway, we elected to direct the contractor to bore under the driveway. But recall, this project was 50 miles of water mains, 50 miles of water mains. So there are going to be conditions in the field that you can't anticipate. Every single driveway was not field verified. This was just one of those situations that came up, and once we identified the issue, the contractor identified the issue, brought it to our attention. We discussed how best to handle it and felt like the board was the most appropriate way to deal with the issue.
I mean, it seemed like me, they should have known that one with that school there.
I guess the thing I would add, again, back to the scope and size of the project, certainly the county or the engineer could invest the time and energy to conduct more due diligence, do more field work, verify depths of driveways, asphalt sections, but you would spend so much money over a 50-mile project to make sure that you've nailed down every little detail. You try to exercise appropriate level of due diligence, but knowing there's going to be some things that come up over the course of the project that you just have to deal with.
Didn't they map out the route?
I'm sorry?
Line for the water system in the beginning?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
I said, the engineers, didn't they map out the direction line, where it was going and how it was going?
Yes, sir, 50 miles
From the
worth.
beginning, and they missed this?
Again, over the course of 50 miles, we could have directed the engineer to verify the dimensions and depths on every driveway over a 50-mile project, but we would spend well in excess of $20,000 multiple times to do that. And again, with the scope of the project, you know things are going to come up that you didn't anticipate, and we just have to deal with those items as they are identified. For a 50-mile project, even though this is change order 8, I think we've had a reasonably good set of plans. So I wouldn't say that this is an atypical situation that we're addressing through this change order.
Is this the correct amount here? Am I reading this wrong?
Could you read to me what you're reading, because I don't know what you're looking at?
The change order, Mr. Bell, feels a total of $22,300.
But it was saying here, the change order is in the project of what, 6 million, there's,
The original contract award was $5,746,250. This particular change order is $22,300. Previous change orders have been in the amount of $657,487.35, which will bring us to an amended contract price of $6,426,037.35.
oh, the change order that will bring the project up to
It will increase at $22,300 to a amended amount of $6,426,037.35.
Well, it really doesn't read like that.
Well, it does on the change order document itself on the left-hand side.
Well, I see the change order document is different from what I'm reading here.
And at this point, we
Okay.
have underrun the contract amount. There have been underruns on the project. Now, there are some items that we have yet to resolve with the contractor, and we'll continue to work through those. So I don't know where we'll end up. But at this point, based on the contract quantities and the quantities installed, we should come in less than the 6,426,037.35.
I can see change orders when you want to make some changes in the plan, but this is one they should have, engineers should have known from the beginning. But that's okay. That's just my take.
All right, any other questions or comments? And as Mr. Boone said, we do have a couple of major contested items that we're still working on, so we will see some additional updates on this contract in the future, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
All right, if there are no other questions, I call for a motion for approval on this item.
Motion.
Have a motion by Commissioner Outlaw and a second by Commissioner Arrington.
Okay.
Any questions on that? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 18 is approval of rescue contracts with Stony Creek District. This is an item we had last month, and we tabled it for 1 month to let Mr. Rogers continue to work on it, particularly the maps themselves, and he brings
Good
it
afternoon.
back to us. Yes, sir. Good afternoon. You're correct.
So we have spent a little more time since I was with you last on the development of the maps for the area that was previously served by Stony Creek, and we have those maps now finalized. The 2 existing primary rescue departments that are affected by this change have agreed to the new map, as well as the 2 new rescue providers, which will be Red Oak Fire Department and the Brattleboro Fire Department. So we would ask for your approval to approve the contracts now between Red Oak Fire Department and the county, and Brattleboro Fire Department and the county.
Are there questions on this, board members?
If I read this, interpreted properly, I was reading in here where Stony Creek Rescue were responsible for the fire district.
No, sir.
I'm just wondering why was that stated that way?
They were responsible for providing primary rescue services in those fire districts.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Oh, in the
Yes,
fire
sir.
district?
Yes, sir.
You recall, Mr. Belfield, Rocky Mountain had annexed their total fire district,
Well, I remember when the city
or the
took
majority
over
of it.
what Stony Creek.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. But that's why I was wondering why it was listed fire district.
Right, okay. Only question I had, Scott, is there any kind of official document that transfers the rescue service to the city of Rocky Mount, in the city of Rocky Mount?
Actually, there is not currently, because that is not a county general statute required responsibility. However, to your comment, we could certainly do an interlocal agreement and have that signed.
I'm just asking for the attorneys, Mr. Lamb, Mr. Durham, if you feel that's necessary. What I'm just, everybody has expected us to go to these calls for so many years. I just wonder if we need a clear line that we stopped at this date and no longer have any responsibility, or is it a given? I can just see a tragedy where you get a lot of lawyers that chase participants in a lawsuit that may expand on that particular fact that we didn't have any kind of agreement by us transferring that responsibility to the cities officially. But if the lawyers say we don't need it, I understand.
I would request a letter from the city saying they agree that they're got to take it over. I think that would be enough.
Okay.
I don't see any issue. We could get that.
Okay.
And that would include any future expansion of that boundary in the letter.
Right.
My suggestion would be we state it as city limits, so anytime they change that city limit line, it would include it.
You okay?
I'm good.
Okay. And, well, we'll vote, then I want to ask you one more thing.
Okay.
If no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve these contracts.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Leggett. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner, had 2, Belfield. Any other questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries, and it's still effective January the 1st, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just something for you to think about with the long service of Stony Creek. I feel like this board would want to recognize those members that are remaining in some manner. I'm not sure what that is, whether it's have them come to a future meeting or whatever staff may look at, but I wouldn't want them to close up and not be some recognition for what they've done since 1953, 56? Seven, okay, close. But I just feel the need to do that. So if you will just think about that. I will. Get back with us on what the board could do, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item number 19, which is interlocking agreement, interlocal agreement and locking with the town of Nashville to operate a farmer's market. And I'll ask Mr. Lamb to make this presentation.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, during budget time, we discussed the idea of expanding the position of farmers market director from part-time to full-time, and as part of that, it was an interest by Nashville to utilize her services to begin their own farmers market here in Nashville. She does have a lot of experience. She's been our farmers market for several years. She was the farmer market director in Zebulon before then. I believe it was Zebulon. And so we thought that was a good idea, and Vince has worked with the farmers market director and the cooperative extension director to come up with an agreement where she would work or allocate 8 hours per week to manage the farmers market in Nashville also. I think their times will be different than the county's farmer market times, and we believe that this would be a good thing for the farmers market here in Nashville. They're going to also hire an assistant person who they anticipate eventually can take over the responsibilities. But given Maureen's experience, it was felt that getting off the floor, they wanted to have someone with quite a bit of experience. So instead of doing 20% of the entire cost of the position, we ended up doing 20% of her base salary, which is, I believe, is $8,000 a year. Paragraph 2A, I just lost it. That would not include any kind of fringe benefits or anything. It's really just a contract for $8,000 a year once they give us notice that they want to start utilizing her. She has been on full-time since July, so it will be simply $8,000 a year that they will pay. I think it's $667 a month once they give us notice that they want to utilize her services. I think it's a good deal for them. It's a good deal for us. So I would recommend approval. If there's any questions.
Questions of Mr. Lamb?
I'm supportive, but I do have a question. We increased the manager's time to full-time. I'm assuming we did that because we had full-time responsibilities with our own farmers market, and now we're going to take 20% of her time and sell it to the town of Nashville for their farmers market. What implications, if any, does that have on the effectiveness of her ability to manage our market if 100% was needed when we increased it to full-time?
When we increased it from 20 hours a week to 40 hours a week, we had already begun discussions with Nashville and was anticipating this contribution and her helping Nashville in addition to putting in more hours for us.
Okay, I never heard that before, but that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Other questions or comments?
Well, that was the same question when I read this that I had, that Commissioner Outlaw asked. What effect? And, well, I thought I read some information that Spring Hope is thinking about a farmer's market too, town of Spring Hope.
I have not heard anything about that. Cooperative Extension might have been contacted about that, but I have not been contacted.
I have read that as well, just in the Spring Hope paper.
You heard it too?
I've read it in the paper that they are
Yeah,
considering,
well,
yes.
that's where I got it from. It's in the paper.
But I don't think it's been any request to the county.
No, but I was just thinking that it may, when they get ready to really get it started, that they may ask the same thing.
Yeah, I would say that when she was at 20 hours, she needed more hours anyway, regardless of Nashville, given that they're open on Tuesday afternoons and Saturdays. But we felt like we could accommodate 8 hours. I'm not sure, as he raises, question he raises, that if we added another town, that she would have enough time to manage 3 farmers markets. But I believe for the short term, which is contemplated, she has adequate time, in her opinion, to do the Nashville. But again, we have not been contacted about doing anything beyond that.
Well, one thing that, serving on the advisory board, the farmers market in Rocky Mount, one thing that I've been pushing and advocating that some activities or something go on there at that farmers market year-round, rather than shutting down first week, second week of December, and then open it back up in the latter part of April or May.
Right, April.
You know, just keep some activities going there. And that would, if that happens, that's going to take up quite a bit of her time.
Yeah,
I couldn't see her taking on another.
Yeah, I
town farmers market.
That would be a stretch, I believe. I do believe she does a great job. Our numbers are up at the farmers market. And I think her abilities are part of the reason Nashville's interested in utilizing her initially. I think the plan is for a couple-year process, and then eventually they will have a part-time person who takes the full role for Nashville.
Other questions or comments? I think myself, looking at the big picture here, this board needs to do pretty much what they can to continue to improve the relationship we have with the town and the town board of Nashville, because they are the county seat of Nash County, and it is very important that we work together. And there is other items in which we hope to join hands and work together on, one of them being economic development in the near future, as well as numerous other things. So I certainly support this contract right here, or interlocal agreement. If there's no other questions, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, seconded by Commissioner Wilkins or Leggett. I can't tell where you raised your hand upon Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. The motion carries, and thank y'all for your patience this morning. Glad to have you. All right, next item.
I didn't even know y'all.
Yeah, they've come a while, left a while, and come a while. But do glad to have you here, and please come anytime you got some free time. All right, that moves us to item number 20, which is the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief Project Ordinance. Call on Miss Wood, and if someone will bring her a chair to the front, she has the next 6 or 7 items, and she may need a chair before we finish up.
No, I don't think mine will go as long as the public hearings.
Okay. All right, take off then.
Okay, the first item, as you mentioned, is the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief Project Ordinance Amendment. The amendment is presented to adjust the Elm Street drainage project to include replacement of 160 feet of storm sewer pipe on the lower end of Elm Street in Nashville, causing a sinkhole. The additional project will cost $92,360. The North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency has approved an increase to the CDBG grant of $37,957 with additional funding within the existing project grant funds and $24,489 to be provided by the town of Nashville as the pipe is in the town of Nashville right-of-way and is part of the town drainage system. Are there any questions on the amendment?
Any questions on that? Mr. Boone's available if you have technical questions. Seeing none, I entertain a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Item number 22 is a COVID-19 grant project ordinance amendment.
Actually, that 21 is the American
21.
Rescue Plan.
Excuse me, did I jump one? I did. I'm sorry. Trying to speed up things. 21 is American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, grant funding project ordinance. Ms. Wood?
This is an amendment to the original project ordinance that we have. This amendment is presented to adjust the funding categories of the ARPA grant project to reflect the expenditure and compliance categories as currently established by the ARPA committee for the full authorized funding for Nash County of $18,316,281. The full funding is not currently in Nash or with Nash County, but it will be available in May. And based on comments from our, the NC Pro and other guidance, we are eligible to budget the full amount of funding.
Any questions from board members?
What is the other programs?
The other programs that we put in place, it was with the draft compliance list that we have. It was infrastructure it was the water sewer infrastructure for $8,300,000, the infrastructure for broadband, $4,500,000, other administration, $350,000, the miscellaneous programs that we haven't established.
That's the one you haven't established what that $1,550,000 is going to be spent for.
That is correct. We're still working on those.
Okay.
Other questions? Entertain a motion for approval of item number 21.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Wilkins. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Item number 22, COVID-19 grant project ordinance amendment.
Okay. This project ordinance amendment is presented to include additional state funding of $40,875 through the CARES Act and Center for Disease Control and Prevention to the Health Department to be used to prevent, prepare for, and respond to COVID-19 by carrying out activities related to the surveillance, infection control, and mitigation of coronavirus.
Questions? Motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
A motion by Commissioner Combs, a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Item number 23, which is a Northern Nash Water System Project Amendment.
Okay. The attached amendments presented to adjust the project for the following, the Northern Nash Water System Project for the following items. First one is acceptance of the additional loan funds and related closing fees from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality as approved at the November 1st, 2021 Board of Commissioners meeting, and for the purchase of additional meters for the project. Closing fees are requested from the general fund as these are ineligible for coverage by the loan grant program and therefore requested from the general fund. The closing fees are $13,090. The second item is the North Carolina 43 and Wallet Mill Road property acquisition for well sites as approved at the November 15th, 2021 Board of Commissioners meeting.
So you're just setting the ordinance up for what we've already approved.
That is correct.
Okay. Any questions? Entertain a motion for approval of the project ordinance.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett. Second? Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Item number 24 is the LCID capital project amendment.
Okay, this amendment is presented to make funds available to improve the access road for the LCID Phase 2 project. We had funds already in place for other professional services, and this is just moving those funds to road improvements.
These funds coming from the,
There's a project already established for the LCID project, and there was a line item for other professional services. We're just reallocating those funds to road improvements.
and that's a landfill project.
That is correct.
Mr. Chairman, the state required us to add a road around the landfill, the LCID landfill at the last minute. Thank you.
I recall that. Any questions? Entertain a motion for approval of the amended project ordinance.
Make a motion to approve the amended project ordinance.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, or second? Second by Commissioner Belfield. Questions? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Budget amendments.
Okay. I have 7 amendments to present to the board for consideration of approval. The first item is park facility maintenance. This budget amendment is presented to budget park improvement funds for Glover Park from the town of Nashville per the memorandum of understanding between Nash County and the town of Nashville for maintenance and operations at Glover Park. The projects approved for the current year include laser grading of fields. It's $20,000 and no county funds are required. The next item is with the Health Department. This budget amendment is presented to budget additional state funding to provide screening and patient navigation services to North Carolina Breast and Cervical Cancer Control Program eligible women. It's $500, no county funds are required. The next item is a budget amendment present to budget low-income housing water assistance program, state funding through the American Rescue Plan Act to assist households with water and wastewater bills. It's $230,750. This, no county funds are required. The next item is a general fund transfer with the Northern Nash Water System Project. This budget amendment is to appropriate fund balance for from the general fund to transfer to the Northern Nash Water System Fund to cover the closing costs associated with the additional state resolving fund loan funds to be received. The next item is Rural Operating Assistance Program. At the time the budget was adopted, final funding had not been set for the Rural Operating Assistance Program Fund. This amendment is to adjust the budget to accommodate the approved funding for fiscal year 2022. The next item is Economic Development Fund. This amendment is presented to request an appropriation of $562,870 from Economic Development Fund fund balance to transfer to the general fund to purchase economic development investment property. And what goes along with that one as well is an amendment presented to appropriate $400,000 from the general fund along with the $562,000 from $870 from the Economic Development Fund to purchase economic development investment property, which would also include closing costs, estimated around $15,000.
Questions on those 7 budget amendments? The first one about the laser grading of the fields, that comes out of the expenditure that the town of Nashville committed when we started looking at athletics.
That is
annual
correct.
basis. So that's where that money comes from?
That is correct.
Okay. And the one about, in social services, about helping with water and sewer bills with ARP money, did we cover that in the ARP committee, or is that a different pot of money?
That is a different pot of money.
'Cause I don't remember that coming up.
That is a completely different pot of money. It's a program through the state,
Okay,
and we had to register, our utility department had to register to use that money and to have this program available for our customers.
but it's still considered to be ARP money.
It is.
Okay. Are there other different pools of money like that? Could be.
There could be, they offer up something at different times.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
this was one
I
recently
just
added.
didn't think we had covered it in the big ARP pool of money.
It is not part of that pool of
Okay,
money.
All right. The general fund, I understand it wouldn't cover the loan fee, so you got to take that out of did it come out of general fund or come out of utility funds?
It's coming out of the general fund. The first closing cost that we did for the loan also came out of the general fund.
Okay, all right. And then the economic development, I knew we had a fund balance set aside for economic development. Mr. Lamb or Donna, either one, does that mean we have spent all of that money, or is there still money there left?
There's still a little bit of money left. The fund balance in that account, I believe, is $641,000. So this is just a piece of it. Hopefully, once we sell the property, because it is investment property, we would put that money back into our economic development fund.
So, but the 400 is coming out of the general fund, you just wanted to leave some money in
I did.
the fund balance of the economic development fund?
That is correct.
Okay, I got you. That's where you keep going back to and finding a little money when needed. I got it. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the 7 budget amendments.
Move approval.
Moved by Commissioner Belfield. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on that? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by say aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? They stand approved.
Mr. Chairman, I would, and I should have gotten this before, the 400,000, once we sell the Shell building, will the general fund be reimbursed?
The general fund should be reimbursed.
Okay.
But we can establish that probably with an amendment.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Anything else, ma'am?
No, that's all. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, we'll go to setting the meeting calendar for 2022. We're getting there, folks. Hold on.
We're getting there.
Yep. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Each year, the board adopts their meeting calendar for the clerk to publish for the public. This coming year, we have 2 meetings that will fall on holidays. The first being the second meeting in January, following on Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, and it's proposed that you move that meeting to the Tuesday after Monday, the 17th. So Tuesday, the 18th is the proposed date. The first meeting in September also falls on a holiday, the Labor Day holiday, and it's proposed that we move that meeting date to Tuesday, September the 6th. And then we have a couple of other dates to point out to you. We don't generally have a second meeting in the month of February, but I would like the board to consider us holding a second meeting in the month of February to discuss some preliminary budget discussions, being your new manager and trying to get some direction as we move into the new budget season. If we could consider having a second meeting in February. Also, the Commissioner's Budget Retreat, we're proposing dates of March the 23rd and 24th. And then also, staff is recommending, just like we did this year, we moved our second meeting in May to the 4th Monday in May, because May has 5 Mondays in it. And that is right in the middle of our budget season, and moving that May 2nd meeting to the 4th Monday would be helpful on timing with the budget season. Those are your calendar dates to consider for the 2022 calendar.
I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to let commissioners bring up any questions you have first. Seeing none, the February preliminary business second meeting, will you want Mr. Outlaw to line up speakers for that meeting, or will it be totally preliminary budget discussion?
That may be a time when we actually want to consider hearing from either the community college or school board. That's something that we could consider as far as outside presenters, probably not doing what we would normally do, make that more of a work session to talk about budget discussions.
Mr. Outlaw?
It's going to be a little bit early for the community college or the school system, I believe.
I was thinking that, yeah.
But I think you're talking about just getting general input on the budget. I think that would waive the need for an outside presenter or inside. I think you want to focus on the budget, let's focus on the budget.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. All right.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with it too. I just wanted clarity on what you had in mind there. I would like to request that the board consider moving the September meeting instead of the 6th, the 7th. Maybe I looked at trying to move it another week, but there's not enough days in September to make that work without having 2 meetings in a row. But if we could move it to the 7th, I have something planned over Labor Day that I really need to have no meeting on the 6th, which is Tuesday, because I'll just be getting back. And if the board would kindly consider moving it to Wednesday, I would greatly appreciate it. And actually, it comes from my wife and not from me, if that helps me get it approved.
Well, if you actually moved it, I'm not recommending this, I'm just saying an option would be you could move it to the 12th and then move the second meeting to the 26th. You'd have 2 weeks separating, and you don't have a meeting in the following month, so that may be an option too.
But it would put the 26th and the 3rd back to back, the 3rd of October.
That's true, that's true.
Yeah. And I have noticed some locales do it on Wednesday, but anything we can agree on, that Tuesday after Labor Day has kind of given me a trouble each year, but I've worked around it. But I would ask this year that we move it to somewhere. Does Wednesday bother anybody?
It's good for me.
If it keeps you from getting divorced, we're fine.
That would be expensive. I appreciate that. God, I hope she ain't looking for it.
Tuesday after Labor Day would be a conflict for me.
It would be. How about Wednesday?
I think Wednesday, not unless we change some activities at church, Wednesday would be okay.
Did I just hear you make any kind of commitment, sir, or not necessarily?
Well, I can make a commitment Wednesday.
I think you missed my point, but we'll take it up later, sir. We'll talk about it when we take a break.
Okay.
Yes.
There's 2 dates that I may have a conflict on.
Sure.
The second meeting dates.
Yes.
I would still, I may just need to attend virtual. I could still do the meeting.
Right.
But I may need to attend virtual. Is that an issue?
And can somebody tell me we are still in a mode of operation, we can do that? Or can we always do that?
I
That's my
believe we
question.
can always do that at this point.
They've changed the law that you can at any time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're satisfied with that, that's fine.
Okay.
All right.
And that may not come together, but I just
Understand.
wanted
Sure.
to let you know.
Yep.
Thank you.
Would you let Mr. Tyson know that we need to talk about the next meeting of the LDC also? We've got a date scheduled that we're going to need to work on the date, because I think Ms. Logan has a conflict on that.
Okay.
I'm just trying not to forget it.
Okay.
You just tell them to get in touch with me about that, because we have to schedule it with the planning board chairman as well as myself.
Will do.
Okay. I just have to think about that. All right. Anything else on the calendar?
You need a motion.
Yes, I'll take I would like to have a motion with those changes as discussed.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we adopt the calendar, except changing the date from September the 6th to September the 7th. Is that the only one we need to change?
Yes.
I think it is. Okay, I'll make a motion.
All right, have a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Calendar is adopted, Mayor.
Thank you.
And the budget retreat of March 23rd, 24th, I have a thought on that. You just contact me.
Okay.
Okay. A location thought in Nash County. We'll move then on to item number 27, which is board appointments.
Yes. For board appointments, the first one we have is for the Braswell Memorial Library Board of Trustees. There's a member that's term is to expire December 31st, Linda Hardy. Ms. Hardy is eligible, willing, and recommended for reappointment.
Questions from the board or a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we accept Ms. Hardy to continue on the Braswell Board of Trustees.
Have a motion to reappoint Ms. Hardy. Is there a second to that motion? And second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, for the board's information, I am an ex officio member of that board, and therefore, Ms. Schatzer will become the ex officio member of that board. I'm not sure it requires board action, but if it does, you can do it at a future meeting.
I just soon take care of it if it's okay.
Do it right now.
All right.
I don't think it does.
What's that, sir?
I don't think it, I think that's an automatic appointment, county
Darrell.
manager.
I think it probably is in the library's bylaws, but it doesn't hurt to go ahead and make it formal.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to put the new county manager in the place of Mr. Lamb on the library board as an ex officio member, which means it's a non-vote member, I guess.
No, actually, it's an ex officio voting member,
Okay.
and we do have a meeting on Wednesday, I believe, of this week.
Okay.
But I will attend that one, and then the future ones,
Right.
she'll be effective the 15th of December.
No,
Well, whenever the next meeting after.
it wouldn't be December. Oh, okay, effective December. I understand. Gotcha. All right, have a motion. I entertain a motion for that approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you. The next one is for our Farmers Market Advisory Board. We have terms expiring for Bobby Joe Fisher, Daniel Bissett, Davis Ferris, Kevin Bullock, and Stephanie Collins, December the 31st, 2021. All of these members are eligible, willing, and recommended for reappointment.
I think it's supposed to be David Ferris,
I
the Chamber of Commerce.
That's why I paused. I'm not sure why I've got Davis there. I apologize for that. David Ferris
It says David on the list.
on our
On the-
other list. Okay, I apologize for that typo.
Pleasure of the board. You have 3 members that can be reappointed.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we accept the said names as read for the Farmers Market Advisory Board.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? A second. Any questions on the motion? You want to read those one more time, please?
Yes, sir. Bobby Joe Fisher, Daniel Bissett, David Ferris, Kevin Bullock, and Stephanie Collins.
So it's 5, not 3.
There are 5 of them.
Okay. I'm glad you read it again. It's 5 reappointments. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well.
Mr. Chairman, again, I'm the ex officio member of that board. I'm not sure it requires board action, but I would suggest that you formally appoint Stacy Schatzer as the ex officio member of that board.
Effective December the 15th?
It's fine.
Okay. All right, I'd entertain that motion as well.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on that motion? Are you keeping notes?
I am.
All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next one is for the Agricultural Advisory Board. The advisory board has terms expiring for Brandon Moore, Michael Strickland, Ronnie Weaver, and Orville Wiggins on December 31st, 2021. All of these members are eligible, willing, and recommended for reappointment.
Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion, we reappoint these members.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
Okay. The Upper Coastal Plain RPO Transportation Advisory Committee has appointments that you all reapprove on an annual basis. The appointments are unchanged moving forward. They are for Commissioner Outlaw, the town of Middlesex, the town of Spring Hope, and the town of Red Oak.
And they are eligible?
Yes, all eligible, willing, and recommended.
All right. Pleasure of the board.
Move approve.
Moved by Commissioner Belfield. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
Okay, and the last one is for the Nash County Board of Adjustment. We still have a need for an alternate member, number 3, to serve on that board. And I have not received any additional information about a recommendation.
Okay, any member have anyone? I think you were working on it, Ms. Belfield. Do I remember that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyone or move it to January?
Not today, I don't.
Okay.
Don't have one.
All right. Mr. Lamb, are there any more of nature of ex officio members or anything else you got on top of your head we need to take care of prior to December the 15th?
I think the chamber, but we might have already done that one.
I think you've already done that.
Yeah. I believe that's, I can't remember of any at this point.
All right, thank you, the board. Just let us know
Okay.
Thank you.
if you need something to do. All right, and we'll move on to item number 28, which is the monthly tax report. We'll call forward the most patient woman that works for the county, Ms. Dorso. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, at this time, I'd like to present the monthly tax report. As you all know, this report is designed to keep the board current on activities in the tax collector's office. The report is for your information only and does not require approval. However, it is recommended that you accept the report so that it'll be noted in the minutes. And if there are any questions, I would be glad to answer.
Any questions on the report?
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
This report indicates that for the current year, we're behind where we were last year. The November numbers that have come in at the end of November, absent the motor vehicles, indicates that we collected quite a bit of taxes in November, and those percentages are now going to be higher for November than they were last year. So,
And one of the reasons for that is we had one of our large taxpayers that had not paid. They paid in November, so that helped catch us up a whole lot.
Must have been a large one.
It was.
All right, glad they paid. All right, any questions? It's noted that the report was given for the record. Item number 29 is tax refunds.
Yes, sir, we do have a refund that we need approval on so that we may disperse those funds.
One second. It's all one person, multiple years.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll second the motion to approve the refunds.
So moved.
Move approve.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item on the agenda is commissioner comments, and I'd open the floor up to any commissioner that wishes to make a comment.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Outlaw.
just mention that in January for our inside presentation, I think myself and Ms. Shattuck are on the same page with this. We're planning to have the Communications Department present the information related to county versus city life. That would be our inside presentation. And this takes us back to the issue we previously had with some of the propane cannon issues. And also for the outside presentation, and I have not finalized this yet, but I would like to recommend that we have DOT come in and just kind of give us a general update on this project on Eastern and Sunset Avenue and future expansion along Old Carriage Road without objection from the board.
No objection here, sir.
And I'll be making that contact with the representative this week and finalizing that.
Okay.
I think I told you I may have overstepped my bounds on that.
Well, it won't be a problem. See, there's one little matter there that's come to my attention that I'll discuss it with you offline, but, and I would discuss it with that individual before they made the presentation as well. I think it's something that needs to be addressed.
Left turn issue, I suppose.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, other comments from commissioners?
Got a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to report that the Land Use Plan Working Group met last week on December 1st.
Thank you.
And we received the preliminary results for the citizen survey that had been advertised and posted online. And hopefully those results will be posted on the project website soon. The results of that survey was very interesting and clearly expressed the sentiments of many of the speakers we have during public comment that often oppose dense development that's going on in especially the southern part of the county. And so there's different things we're looking at to try to address that and help the county grow in a positive way. And the committee will meet again in January.
If you don't mind me asking you, if you would make that report after each meeting, to keep the board informed, I'd greatly appreciate it.
I can give as little or as much detail as y'all want, but that's kind of the broad strokes of it, that we did receive the results of the survey.
But we need to be reporting to the board, and it's you and myself and Mr. Arrington on there. If you would do that,
Okay.
We'd be appreciated.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for bringing that up. Anything else to add to it?
I think just looking at the survey results here, loss of farmland and impact to natural resources, that was the number one concern of
Very clear.
folks.
And how many how many people did we have? If you got
It was 585 participants, and they said that was about average.
Yep. Okay. And we had a very detailed meeting, I thought, lasted 2 hours and 40 minutes, about 40 minutes overtime, but a lot of great discussion between the planning board members and ourselves. It's obvious that we have different thoughts out of the 7 either planning board members or commission members. Certainly some different thoughts on the planning board, some different thoughts on the commission board, but it's going to be a great exercise, and I hope we've got a document that we all, of both boards can sign off on when we get through and all join in on and move forward in the future. But it's very timely to get it done. Maybe it'd been nice to have had it approved at this point in time, but that's where we are, so we're going to keep pushing to get it done as quick as we can, but make sure we do a thorough job of it.
When do you think that will be? When will it be complete?
Sue, do you recall the date? We are looking at finishing it up right before budget time, I think? Or is it a little sooner than that?
No, I don't think any sooner than that.
Okay, and it may be toward the end of the year. I don't have that on my head right now, Dan.
Okay, that's a long time. I mean, I think we need to get this done. And I think that, as we have seen by some people's opinions and sentiments this morning, that, you know, I got Adam to send us this thing. So far, we've approved 785 lots in southern Nash County. And most of them are 20,000 square feet lots.
That's in
And
two districts, isn't it?
That's in two districts.
Right.
District 3, which is mine, District 4, which is Sue's. And I think we need to take consideration that, you know, when is enough of this kind of growth enough? We need to change the landscape, the look, before it all looks the same, and we have developed every little corner that's available in 20,000 square foot lots with cookie cutter housing, that we need to plan that everything don't wind up the same in southern Nash County. You know, we'll be glad to share some of these 20,000 square foot lots with some of these other districts, because we about had enough.
Thank you, sir. Other comments from commissioners on anything on your mind?
I don't have any comment on that. I've got some already.
You don't have 800.
No, but I got first.
He got the first ones.
No said.
I know you did, and I'm sorry.
Mr. Bellfield.
I'd like to make comments on safety.
What's the word, safety?
Safety.
Okay.
Yeah. We look at the world and look at the country. It looks like now we're in a situation where nowhere is safe. You're seeing shootings and killings in the churches, in the schools, in the shopping centers, and in neighborhoods, you can say communities. And I just think we all need to be concerned that nowhere is safe, that we need to take precaution to at least minimize some of this situations that are going on. Some of it is mental, and mental health ought to be one of our top priorities in this nation, in this state, and even in the county. I think about it every night. I know last night I heard more gunfire, I mean, just rapidly. So it's in it. It wasn't in my immediate neighborhood, but it was where I could hear it. And it's the second time in about 5 or 6 days. So we just can't take, in my opinion, we can't take things for granted that over in this area is safe, and over there is where all the unsafe activities. When you think about your school with your teenage kids, and even I read a situation where a child 6 years old took a gun to school. And that's a shame, even though he didn't use it, but he had it, and it was loaded. So we need to, coordinating along with the sheriff and the school system, and even we need to encourage in public buildings that we have cameras that you can see what's going on, and they probably need to be monitored. But it's something that I think we ought to call attention to, and it's getting worse rather than getting better. They said there are more people are being killed by weapons than people actually dying from natural birth here in the United States of America.
Thank you, Mr. Bellfield.
I just have a comment.
Sure.
You just need to remember that those guns didn't kill anybody. It was the people that was carrying them. And I would like to at this time publicly thank the Sheriff's Department for a case they've worked on in my district. It was a serious situation, and they worked on it day and night until they made the arrest of the people that did it, and I just publicly want to thank the sheriff's department for what they did.
Thank you, Dan.
Can I just make one more quick comment,
Sure.
a constructive comment
This
on
is the
this?
time we're in.
On this land plan. I don't know because I'm not on the committee, but is the committee looking at the county in its entirety and coming to some determinations as to this tract of property, this land, this area, this region is suburban growth, and beyond that is rural growth, and in suburban growth, you might allow lesser or higher density than in suburban growth? So just to just pull something out of the air, so in suburban growth, you might allow R20 CZ, but in rural growth, you might not allow anything less than R30. Is that something that the committee is looking at, something like that?
Well, actually, that's what we work under now. We have suburban growth where we have designations. And
Well, the
rural
reason
growth.
you're looking at the plan is because obviously the plan's not working. You see
That's
that
right.
from the people that are coming in here
Right.
at every meeting. So I
Yeah.
assume you're looking at changing the landscape to change where you can do 20, 30, et cetera.
That's the way, that is a way to
Because I
change
think
that.
that's to Mr. Cone, Dan's point.
Right.
I think that's kind of what they're looking for.
Sure.
And I agree. You can reach a point where enough is enough.
Right. Yeah, that's the way the plan we currently operate under is structured, and that's what we're operating under. And as some commissioners think, that's not our desire to have any longer, or possibly our desire to have any longer. Therefore, that part will be altered some.
There
Or
will be
you
some
could-
changes.
There will be some
Allow
changes
for-
to that, but it could also be some changes in what's allowed in each of the proposed growth areas. So it's two ways to tackle the issue that's at hand.
Well, I look forward to seeing that plan when it comes out so we can review it.
Right. Sure. Okay, others? I'm almost embarrassed to give my housing report with the former comments, but I'm gonna give it anyway. It was a very active month for new housing permits. We actually, on the commercial side, we issued permits of $17,150,000, which is a very large number. Granted, some of it was commercial and, was governmental in nature, but it is still growth in the county. On the residential side, we had 54 total new home permits, which include stick-built homes as well as our sectional and manufactured home permits. Out of those 54, it was a total of 21 different builders that pulled those. So it is certainly a fact that we have many different builders in Nash County. I would dare say 5 years ago, we might have had 4 or 5, and now we're in the range of 20 to 30 different builders pulling permits. And so the residential side is continuing to grow. I just had a thought as Sue and Dan were talking. I'm going to see if, how much trouble it would be to actually determine where those permits are issued by district. I think would be good information for us to start monitoring as well. Because I can just see by the list, quite a few of them are in one of the 3 or 4 districts. So I'll ask Adam if he could actually give us that on the report, or Satzler, if you could remember to do that, it would be something we could start monitoring as well. May help us with the land development code. But that's all I had. And at this time, I would point out that this would be Mr. Lamb's last official meeting as manager, and I'm sure he's got a long report telling us what all he's accomplished since he's been here. But I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Several of the things have been addressed, but I will let everyone know that the county offices will close Thursday, Friday, and Monday, December 23rd, 24th, and 27th. We follow the state's holiday schedule, and that's 3 days during Christmas. So it's Thursday, Friday before Christmas, and Monday after Christmas.
Closed 5 days total.
5 days, including the weekend.
I thought we followed the banking schedule, which said you can't be closed more than 2 days in a row.
The what?
The banking schedule said you can't be closed more than 2 days in a row.
Sometimes they're closed 3 days, when they close on a holiday on a Friday or a Monday. But
Correct.
also for New Year's holiday, the county offices will close Friday, the 31st, the day, New Year's Eve. The PACE study is underway, and the Human Resources staff is pulling together some information requested by Management Advisory Group. We're on target for the timetable, and once additional information is learned, we will be reporting back to the commissioners. And again, as I've said in the past, the people doing the study will meet with our department heads and others to get their perspective on their particular sector and the needs. Just to let you know about sales tax, again, for the month of October, we had a really good month, 1.67 million. Over the first 4 months of the year, we're running about 700,000 or 800,000 more than budgeted. We're at 67.62% and 33.33% would be par. So sales tax continue to come in at a over budget rate. And y'all don't have enough time for me to talk about all the great things I've done. So,
We'll lock you a time for another day, sir. How about that?
so that's all I have, and I thank you, and I do appreciate my service here. It's been an enjoyable 8 years. I will still be working until the end of January, but upon my recommendation, I do appreciate y'all making Stacy's effective date the 15th of December, so that at least I will be nearby and on the clock one way or the other, available to her if she needs any information. But I can assure this board that after February 1, even if it's February 1 a year from now, I am available to assist Stacy and this board in any way I can help you. Please give me a call if you have any questions. Sometimes there's institutional knowledge that the current person may not have. Of course, Stacy's been here about half the time as assistant that I've been here, so she knows most everything. But I will always be available to this board for consulting free of charge. So when you say consulting, it sounds like you're going to send a bill. But I really do appreciate my time here, and I'm very glad to be part of county government. We see at the state and federal level how things are so polarized and hyper-partisan. People don't want to work together, and I'm glad I've worked for the last 8 years, for the last 21 years, for boards that really don't walk in with a party label, but come in and try to do what's best for the county. And it's been quite a pleasure working here for the last 8 years, and I thank you.
We thank you, sir. We'll have other comments at future gatherings that we have over the next 30 to 45 days. But it certainly has been a pleasure. All right, if there's no other business, would entertain a motion. First of all, we're going to take about a 15 to 20 minutes break for lunch, which I understand is in the back, and then we'll reconvene in closed session. Closed session is for economic development, matter of attorney-client privilege, and one personnel matter that would be very brief. Any questions? Entertain a motion to go into closed session at this time after the recess.
So moved.
Okay, have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? We stand adjourned, excuse me, we are recessed until we go into closed session, and we are doing that in this room, I think, what we normally do. Okay. All right, we are now back in open session. Mr. Durham, was there any action taken in closed session that needs a vote?
No, sir, no action was taken today.
Okay, all right, therefore, I would entertain a motion at this time to adjourn. We don't have any recess items or anything, okay, so we'll adjourn the meeting for the month of January, month of December of 2021.
So moved.
2022.
December.
December of 2021.
Oh, I thought you said January. I'm sorry.
Yeah, start with it, but I backed up to December.
So
All right, we
moved.
have a motion by Commissioner Wilkins to close the regular session for the Nash County Board of Commissioners. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Coleman. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign?